Good job, Tom. Sorry.
That's all right.
Hello, fellow followers. Welcome back to the Physical Media Show. This is where am I? I lost my place. Welcome to FanZcene on the Physical Media Show. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for waiting for us. And tonight with me, as always, is Tom Runner. How you guys doing?
Doing
All right.
okay.
Internet issues, but it's okay.
Yeah.
I'm on my laptop.
Yeah. So good evening, folks. How's everybody doing out there in TV land, or should I say YouTube land?
Let's just call it the TV land because it's the new
It
TV
practically
land.
is anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'll say hello to the chat real quick since they've been waiting on us, and then we'll get into everything we want to talk into. So, Video Tasties says, have a good show. Thank you, Video Tasties. Once again, that's a great channel I just found. If you're like into retro stuff and VHS stuff like I am, go head over there, give them a sub. They're good people. And then we also have Random Brad. Good vibes. Glad you're here, Random Brad. Heather Preston says hi. Well, hi to you, Heather Preston. Hail Tim Hayes. Glad to have you here as always. And I know, as you said, you can't stay long. He's got another show he's going to go to for a friend his birthday, and that's fine. Don't worry, I leave the streams up so you guys can come back and rewatch them if you want to. So don't worry about that. Scribe Light, what is up, my friend? Good evening to you. Glad to see you here in the chat. Deleted scenes, Steven, the mod with the most. Thank you for being here as well. I don't know if I clicked on his comment. There, he's waving. And let's see who else we got here. Scroll down. Brian Barth, hail to you. Welcome. I'm like clicking the things and they're not showing up or something. There we go. Inverse opinion. Hail. Hey, how you doing?
It's like a lag issue, it sounds like.
Yeah, it's like I'm clicking and then it just like takes a minute.
Hey, Scribe. How you doing, buddy?
Yeah. And then, hi, everyone. Hank V says.
Tim and Steven out there.
Yeah.
Random Brad. All kinds of regulars. Good to see you guys.
Glad to have you guys here as always. I was runner at Best Buy.
I was not.
No, he was not. Howdy, Ace Hanlon. Glad to see you here. Tyrell72. Good evening. FanZcene and Fritzy says. Let's see. Am I missing anybody else? Oh, I think I'm caught up. Alex Zorba, Hell Physical Media. Yes, Hell Physical Media.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Physical media is the superior format, guys. I say this in every video. But before we begin, I don't think there was much new announcements at all, really.
Well, there was a couple of things I guess we could touch on. There's, I mean, the Toxic Avenger collection is up now. It has been up for a while, but if you didn't notice it, it is up now. That's coming August 29th.
Yes, and I noticed they lowered the price too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I don't know if it had an actual release date before. Looks like August 23rd from in Australia anyway. Via Vision is going to be releasing a 5-film set of the Prophecy films. That would be the
Christopher Walken.
Christopher, I just can't believe I just forgot his name. Christopher Walken. Yeah. Let's see here. What else we got? Needful Things finally got a 4K release date from Kino. Looks like July 25th.
Did you hear about that?
No, what's up with that?
I heard it's going to be the 3-hour cut of the film. The full, They found the whole cut. So it's going to be 3 hours long. So that's going to be pretty cool.
Okay, it looks like okay, what it is I can see it here. The 4K Blu-ray is going to be the theatrical cut, and disc 2 is going to be a Blu-ray of the TV cut. I was going to say, I think that's the TV cut. I was just going to say that.
Yeah, the 3-hour cut, yeah.
Because I remember seeing that on TV, how much longer it was, yeah. Yeah, that's pretty neat. And then we've got Dandy coming, looks like from Dark Force Entertainment later this year. No date yet on that. Then we've got, there's a couple of bigger ones here. Kino announced a Perfect Weapon for later this year. It doesn't specify. It looks like a 4K restoration, but doesn't say if we're going to get it in 4K or just a 2K. And then we've got, speaking of Kino, the film Gloria with Gina Rollins in it will be coming on July 18th on Blu-ray. Number One with a Bullet will also be coming on July 18th on Blu-ray.
I want to get that with Billy Dean and Carradine.
Yeah, I saw that and I was like, oh, nice. And the Wicker Man is coming, and now they already got the one that's coming out in the UK, but it sounds like it's going to be coming from Rialto in the US later this year. And then Kino also announced they've been on a Steve McQueen kick lately, which is fine by me because I've been catching up with them, all those films, because of the Quentin Tarantino book. And I've been waiting for this. I've been trying to like get my hands on this one, so I'm glad they finally got around to it. Nevada Smith is coming to Blu-ray on July 18th. July 18th is going to cost you a lot of money if you're a Kino fan.
Yeah. Freaking Kino is determined to be like, hey, you like that money?
Yeah,
not much longer.
Now, there will be a new Jurassic Park collector's edition coming out. As far as I know, unless I hear otherwise, it is not going to be a new scan of the movie or anything like that. So, unless you're just wanting all the fancy swag, I wouldn't get my hopes up too much on that one. But that needs a new scan badly. Because for some reason they didn't use the newer scan on the 4K, and I could tell because I watched the 4K and the 3D version back to back. And I'm like, the 3D version looks better than the 4K Blu-ray. That's not good, and I could tell like the 3D version come from a negative, and the one that's on the 4K Blu-ray is definitely not the negative. And let's see, there was a couple more. I think Scream Factory is doing a new 2K restoration of Paul Bartel's Private Parts. June 6th, it looks like that will hit. And then I swear there was at least one or two more rumors out there. Let's see what
I was trying to remember myself. I was looking through it.
Yeah, I mean those were not like big enough titles for me to actually do the
4K for you video.
4K for you video, but it looks like Ghoulies 4 will be hitting on 7/31. But I don't know if that's in the US. It looks like one of those media books from out of the US. But I do know that we're supposed to be getting Ghoulies 4 at some point here soon. So hopefully we'll be hearing about that eventually. But
hopefully.
I think that was the only other one then, I think, rumor-wise, yeah.
Yeah. As far as I can tell, I think that was everything.
That was it.
We got something that may come up here a little later tonight with you, Tom, but it looks like Amazon's not the only one having problems.
According to ever going to figure out the purpose of Oh, I know. Kino and Amazon, I guess they must be having the same problems with Best Buy, I'm assuming, by this
comment here,
yeah.
Yeah, if anybody doesn't know, it seems like here lately, if you try to pre-order Kino titles from Amazon, it looks like now from Best Buy, that's the first I've heard actually from Best Buy, it's like there's something with Amazon, they don't mail it out on the release date. Like if you go to pre-order, it tells you when it comes out, and then they'll say you'll get it like 2 or 3 weeks later. Delay. There's something going on there, and I'm not sure what it's all about. Tom tried to get a hold of them at one point in time, and
I did talk to somebody about it, but they said they were unaware of an issue at that time. But I said you might want to look into it. And if I talk to them again, I'm going to say something again because. Yeah, I ended up ordering just to test it. I've been ordering a couple of the pre-orders from Amazon, and not a single frickin' one of Kino's pre-orders has ever hit my doorstep the day of release. Twice now, and one of them will come up tonight, so I'm not going to say both of them, but I did order in their sale. I did a small order with Serpico. Because I'm like, well, this bullshit. Serpico got delayed. That was one of the ones I was trying to test Amazon with. They got delayed. So I'm like, all right, I'm gonna do a test here. I'm gonna order it in the sale and see which one gets here first.
Right.
And shit, Serpico was here like 2-3 days after I ordered it. With the other handful of Blu-rays I got out of the sale on that order. My big order hasn't come yet from the sale, but that one did. So it's like, all right, well, so I canceled my Serpico order on Amazon. And then the other one I ordered came out. I got yesterday on release date, but I actually ordered it through Kino, paid shipping and handling, but I managed to actually get it on release date, so no problem. So I was hoping to get a little earlier, but
yeah, that would have been nice. But speaking to this point, if anybody is watching this from Amazon or anybody that follows, that knows anybody in the physical media world here. It's not only Kino, at least not at this moment, because I was going to order the movie L.A. Wars, which just came out on MVD. It's got an audio and visual commentary by Heath, Serial at Midnight. It's the second one he's ever did. And the movie looks, if you like, I play the Samurai Cop clips. It's very much in that vein of Samurai Cop, and it's totally right up my alley. And it was put out by Vinegar Syndrome before, but it's OP by them. So I went to go pre-order that, and it was due out the same day as The Longest Yard, May 16th. But if you pre-order it, you cannot get it till June 15th or 16th. Same with the MVD thing stuff there. So it's kind of weird.
Mm-hmm.
But I know if I go like to other places, I can get that movie.
Yeah, it hasn't just been. You're right. It hasn't just been Kino titles from Amazon. Once in a great while, I'll have some other ones that get delayed and shit. Yeah. And I've also had this issue of like certain movies where I think I'm getting a 4K and I don't end up with 4K.
Yeah, right.
Because needless to say, I'd be talking about the Three Musketeers and Four Musketeers tonight. Had I not, for some weird reason, ended up getting the Blu-ray for the first film.
That's weird.
Runner, whatever you're doing over there, like.
Sorry, I was moving my laptop. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
I didn't know you could hear that.
You got a mute button there, bud.
I didn't think it'd pick. Jesus Christ, Greg.
You'd be surprised. That's why I mute all the time.
It hears a lot. It does.
Yeah.
All right. But yes,
indeed.
It does. So there you guys have it for all the latest news and rumors, up and coming stuff, and any of that stuff there. But so let's start off with you, Tom. What is going to be your first pick of the night?
Well, you kind of telegraphed it, actually.
There you go.
I did get The Longest Yard on day and date. I did pay for the shipping and handling, but it was worth it. This is a movie I've been waiting for a long time. Mm-hmm. I hadn't even realized until a little while back. I'm like, holy crap, I thought I had this on Blu-ray in some Mandela Effect universe. I think I did, because it's only gotten a foreign release. I'm surprised I never even imported it, to be honest with you, because it is a movie I love. In fact, I've owned every DVD that's ever been released. I think I was trying to tell you the story before we started the show, but yeah, my brother, I think, ended up ganking my lockdown edition of it, because I think I ended up selling my old DVD of it when I got the lockdown edition. But yes, I didn't realize until like a little while back, like I said, that this movie had not been re-released. And then just lo and behold, it was one of those few times you get lucky. You're like, oh, good, I didn't order it because I heard Kino was going to be doing a version of it.
Right. Yeah.
And they did a great job with this. I don't think they actually did the scan, but luckily, I can tell you this much: the scan looks great, considering the age of the film in 1974. The most questionable bits probably being all the split screen stuff, which, I mean, of course, is going to be second, third, fourth generation dupes, because of all the stuff that goes into the optical effect of that. But even those scenes don't look too bad. It didn't get any new sound upgrade or anything like that, just the mono track that's always been. But it doesn't. This is one of those few films where, yeah, it'd be cool to have kind of a stereo or a 5.1 upgrade, but it doesn't necessarily need it. Because like the only parts I could see that would really shine would be the opening bit where he takes off with the car, and the football game, which does take up the last half of the film. Don't get me wrong, but it's not necessary. You just turn on all your speakers and it's almost the same, probably.
Right.
Special features, as far as those go, they're all carried over from that previous lockdown edition. Sans the first look at the remake of Longest Yard, which came out around the same time as they released that version of the DVD. But it does have a new audio commentary from film critic Alan Silver and James Ursana, authors of Whatever Happened to Robert Aldrich, who is the director of this film. Yeah, I mean, as a movie goes, I'd argue it's probably Burt Reynolds' best film.
Yeah. Next to Smokey and the Bandit, yeah.
Yeah, well, I like Smokey and the Bandit, but as far as a movie goes, like...
It tells a really great story.
Yes, and I mean, even the remake is not that bad. That's how good the story is, right? Like, and I haven't seen the remake in 10, 15 years.
I know. What I liked about the remake, and I mean, I know, is that even though it's Adam Sandler, I feel like he was really paying respect to the original movie, tried to keep it very much as close as he could and change enough. And plus, Burt Reynolds is in the movie, so I mean, and they treat him with respect. So it doesn't like make fun of what came before, because I hate when they make a remake and make fun of what came before.
No, and I was kind of pleasantly surprised by the remake because I went into it thinking, oh God, he's going to zippity do it up.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm like, yeah, Chris Rock's playing caretaker. Well, we know he ain't dying now.
Yeah,
you know, that's what I was thinking. I'm like,
yeah,
nah, there's no fucking way this is gonna be anything like the original. It's just the concept only, and I was surprised how close it stuck to the original. And you could tell that the guys who made this movie were fans of the original film. And that's the thing. We talk about guy movies and stuff like that, but this is a movie made for guys, by guys. I mean, Albert S. Ruddy had just come off producing The Godfather. He turned down producing The Godfather 2 so he could do this because he felt that strongly about this script. And he had Burt Reynolds in mind from the start. And it was just the way it all came together. They shot this in a prison. You got Ray Nitschke and a bunch of ex-NFL players in it. It's just, I mean, it's a quotable film. I mean, I think I broke his fucking neck. Oh my God, I think he broke his fucking neck.
Yeah,
he broke his fucking neck. See, I told you I broke his fucking neck.
I love that movie. Oh, it is such the mean machine, man.
He meant to do it. I don't think he meant to do it.
I'm gonna need to check it out someday.
You've never oh my God.
Of course not.
Holy shit. Not even the remake?
Not even the remake.
Because at least the remake, you go, okay, well, you know exactly, it's the same fucking story, almost line for line.
No, I've heard of the remake.
The only thing the remake does is just embellish on a few things, really. I mean, otherwise, almost beat for beat, line for line, scene for scene, the remake is almost exact. It's like the Psycho thing, but not. It's kind of weird.
Yeah,
I mean, it does. No, it does have some Adam Sandler moments, but yeah.
I didn't even know the Adam Sandler movie was even a remake.
Yeah, man, you got to see the Burt Reynolds one is a classic. That's one I grew up loving that movie.
I do want to watch it. I do want.
It is a classic. I bet it's one your dad loves.
Oh, more than likely, yeah.
It's one of those movies where you bring it up among any kind of like older men, and they're like, "Oh, The Longest Yard." Oh, I love that fucking movie.
Yeah, that's how I saw it. I was like, I walked into the room one day as a kid, and my dad's watching this Burt Reynolds movie. I was like, "What is this?" He's like, "This is The Longest Yard."
That was kind of like me too. It was like the first time I saw it was on television, believe it or not. So
yeah, me too.
I think I broke his fucking neck. I think they changed it to Freaking or whatever it was on TV. Or they just cut out the F word. I can't remember which.
Yeah.
But my dad, of course, had to point out.
Freaking neck.
I don't remember what they did, but he's like, "Oh, that's not what they say in the original." Anyway, but he's like, "Oh, Longest Yard is on tonight," and it must not have been on in a while or something like that. Because I want to say I was like probably 10, 11, 12 the first time I saw it. So I was a good age. But like my dad's like, "Oh, we're watching that," because my dad didn't do that too often. He was not usually, if it was sports, fine, but like this is where they crossed over. He's like, "Longest Yard's on TV tonight. We're watching that." In fact, he's like, and that was where I remember. He's like, "You get his tape set up because you're fucking taping it." Because he don't know how to do that shit. Yeah, like, we're gonna make sure we got that on tape. It's like they may never show it again.
I remember those days. Still doing that to this day for the parents. Like, "Oh, you got to do this so I can do this so I can have that." But yeah,
they're afraid it's never going to show again. It's like, Dad, it'll probably be on a dozen times. No. Yeah, make sure. It's like TBS just happened to be showing it, I believe. It was that or WGN, one of the two happened to be showing it as their, 7:00 movie or whatever one night. And he was there. He was ready to go. He's like, because he must not have seen it in years. And he was just, it was one of the more active times I've seen him in a movie. And it's like, I enjoyed it. Like vicariously, I was, his energy. But as you get going with it, it's one of those movies you really get sucked into, and it does kind of get pigeonholed as a bit of a comedy because it is very funny.
Yeah, but it gets very serious.
You forget how serious it is. And in fact, I will argue that this is a better film that has the same kind of fucking messages as Cool Hand Luke. And it's better than Cool Hand Luke. I'm sorry I got a vendetta against that movie now. After watching that movie, I'm just like, why? Why is this movie held in such high regard when we've had One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest and The Longest Yard, which do the same exact thing, tell the same exact story, only better, with happier endings, really. And even Jack Nicholson dying is a happier ending than the way Cool Hand Luke ends. Spoilers.
I mean, like you said, you forget though that like this is legit. I mean, like when they're on the digging the the ditch thing there, and like what happens with Caretaker. Like the stakes are serious in this movie, and it's just like such a great movie.
Ball.
Yeah. Crew, get back here!
Shoot him! Shoot him! Runner's just like, what the fuck are these guys talking about? You just say you're sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry I broke your nose. He said he was sorry. You dumb shit.
I cannot wait to get mine. I didn't get mine yet, and it's good to suck because I'll probably bring it on in a couple weeks or whatever when I get it. So,
the remake did actually add some things. Like I loved the cheeseburger guy.
Yeah, like Terry Crews.
Yeah, Terry Crews's bit. Like there was some stuff they did, and I was kind of pleasantly surprised by that. I'm like, wow, they actually managed to do some original material, but still keep it in the feel of the original story idea. And like you said, of course, using Burt Reynolds was brilliant, right? Like that made sense. I mean, and Chris Rock, at first you think about his Caretaker, but then you realize, yeah, he would be that kind of guy in prison. Because he's not big enough to really defend himself. So he's got to make himself useful somehow, right?
Right.
Which is kind of what the original Caretaker was. It's a different take on it, but it works, right? And the same thing with Adam's character. He's not the debonair, suave Burt Reynolds type, but he's that gruff kind of good old boy kind of quarterback kind of guy, you know, and it works.
It does. It really does, and it's got a great, like you mentioned before, the original Longest Yard. It's got actual ex NFL football players. It's even got WWE wrestlers. It's got Stone Cold Steve Austin. It's got Kevin Nash in it, and Goldberg.
Well, actually, wasn't that the thing? Is they had the wrestlers on the one team and the actual NFL players on the other?
Yeah, all the wrestlers were the prison guards, and then all the real ex NFL players were the actual, the prisoners. But it's great. I mean, I agree with you. I think they're a great companion piece. And plus, not only that, the guard, he makes an appearance in the remake as is he friends with the warden. I believe he's playing golf with the warden in the remake. I haven't seen the remake in a while, but if I remember it.
The guy from Death Wish 3,
Yeah.
You set him loose. You let me loose.
Loose. It may have been partially funded by WWE. I don't remember. That might have been around the time when they was trying to make movies, and
I think the XFL was that before or after? That was after the XFL. Never mind.
It might have been.
Yeah, they were still trying to be chummy though with a lot of that stuff. But no, like I could recommend it highly. It's I think $20-something right now on.
Yeah, it's not too bad.
The sale, or I don't know if it's on the sale or not, but it's worth it. If not, just wait for it to be on one of the sales. I think there's a standard Blu-ray as well, but looks great. I can highly recommend it. I didn't really notice any problems we'd had with a lot of Paramount scans as of recently.
That's cool.
I still got to get my order checked out from Kino.
Oh God, Runner.
I'm in bed. You know what's weird? I try to do an experiment with the sale that Criterion has right now, and I spent like $10 more on that purchase that I did on Criterion on their website, and I was able to like work it out, like tell them like no, it's not fraud and shit with my card, and they actually delivered it within like 4 days.
Weird.
So, and I'm trying to get a hold of Kino.
Might just be the system they use in comparison.
Yeah.
I mean, not to get too talky, but
maybe I'll figure something out. I'll probably call him after this show.
There you go. But,
it's a little late, but yeah.
Well, no, it's a 24-hour service.
Well, that's why you try during the day when you actually get somebody who gives a shit, Runner. You'll learn this in life.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay.
You call in the middle of the night, that's when you usually, get the person who's really barely there. Like, because nobody wants to work this time of night.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
And not only that, like I said, I told you your best course of action because you're going to have to get your bank right there when,
Well, I'll try this one thing, and if that doesn't work out, then I'll do what you told me to do.
Yeah. And then there was, that other kind of quasi remake. You're right, Random Brad. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the soccer version. It's got Jason Statham in it, Vinny Jones. Jason Statham plays the one guy, the karate guy.
And it is kind of more of a remake in a sense because outside of the U.S., this movie wasn't called The Longest Yard. It was called Mean Machine.
Mm-hmm. Yep. There you go. I've seen bits and pieces of it. I've never seen it all the way through. I've only seen bits and pieces of it. So maybe I have to get that and watch it.
I'm aware of it, but I don't think I've ever got a chance to see it from my recollection.
Yeah. But it is. I love The Longest Yard. I cannot wait to get mine. I do think it is probably the best Burt Reynolds movie. It's just as fun. It's a fun, good. Like I would say, it's like a dramedy.
He was worried about doing it at the time too. I mean, obviously for the opening scene mainly, because he's like, I don't know. I mean, and of course, you guys, this was before he had ever had any accusations on him for being remotely abusive. But he's like, at that time, he's like, I don't know if my audience can accept me doing that kind of shit.
Mm-hmm.
And to Albert Ruddy's, he told Burt, he's like, they love you. And he goes, they will forgive you because you're also paying your price for it by going to prison in the movie, right? Like it's not like you're getting away with it. And he's like, and then of course, we'll make sure that she's bitchy enough that she kind of deserves it.
She deserves that smacking.
It doesn't really, I mean, really, he does. I mean, if you look at it like then, that's the thing that's like weird about it is like when I first saw the movie, it took me off guard. Because I didn't expect it. My dad didn't prepare me for that bit. I'd never seen Burt Reynolds do anything but cannonball runs and, like Smokey and the Bandit and shit. I hadn't even seen Deliverance at that point.
Right.
And to see Burt Reynolds, practically choking and smacking a bitch, you're just kind of like, whoa.
What's going on here? Like, Burt Reynolds have to smack up.
Once in a while, you just got to put the shit down. No, but like, and then watching it now, like, and seen it, a dozen times since.
Yeah.
It's like, it's not nearly as aggressive. It doesn't come off as aggressive as it did my first time seeing it, I guess. Does that make sense? Because really, he's resisting more than what he actually does. When you know,
it's like he doesn't want to do it, but he's still doing it because she is.
Because she throws shit at him, she hits him, and she's doing all this other shit, and she calls him a fucking whore, and a has-been and whatnot.
Right. This is a good movie. I can't wait to watch it again. And also, speaking of cells,
yeah, look, a miniature cop.
I love it. But there is a Scream Factory 4K sale going on, and Vinegar Syndrome halfway to Black Friday sale goes on next weekend. But anyways, great first pick, Tom. I love it. I cannot wait to get mine. Runner, are you ready for your first pick?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
What you got for us?
Yeah, what do you got?
I have two movies. I just watched them late last night. I thoroughly enjoyed the first movie. Second one's pretty good too, but not nearly as good as the first. It's both movies are produced by Sam Raimi, and it's Don't Breathe 1 and 2. One of the first one is Blu-ray, and the second one's 4K.
I haven't seen them yet, but I'm not going to hold my breath.
Yeah, me neither.
I see. I knew what you did there, but I think Greg would like. If you like Evil Dead, you'll like these movies.
Go ahead.
If you like Evil Dead, you'll like these movies. The first one is.
I don't think I will like those movies. I'll be honest with you. I've seen the trailer. I've seen the trailers. I've read a little bit about the first movie. Just not for me, man. Just not for me. I'm gonna be on. I'm gonna straight honest with you.
First one's damn near perfect.
It just doesn't feel right. I just didn't. From what I saw of it and what I read about it, I was just like, God, this movie just doesn't feel right to me.
How?
I just didn't. I didn't catch me. I don't know. It just. I'm not much for new modern horror to begin with.
This is like one of the best modern horror movies.
Explain it. Sell the movies to me.
I mean, it's a simple premise.
I don't know. I don't know if I'd go with Evil Dead, but I haven't seen them. I heard from what I heard, they sounded more like Tremors. But please tell us more, Runner.
I'm not saying it is Evil Dead, but and it's not as good as Evil Dead. I'm just saying, if you like Evil Dead.
I was kind of sold as like a more horror version of Tremors, not as funny, basically.
Yeah, and the second one, they make him a good guy.
Actually, I think the person who said it said Basically, it's like if Stephen King wrote Tremors.
Ooh.
I could see I could kind of see that, but
because the ending was spoiled for me, or a big part of it was spoiled for me, I should say. Actually, the whole thing was kind of spoiled for me.
The whole thing is like it's about these robbers who like rob places to get money, obviously, and they happen to cross by this blind guy.
Oh, Don't Breathe. Never mind. I was thinking of A Quiet Place. Yeah, I've seen the first Don't Breathe.
No.
The first one's okay, but the problem is, it's a good thing that he is a good guy in the second film, because the first movie makes no fucking sense, and you want them all to die. Exactly. Oh, sorry. I'm so sorry, Ronnie. I forgot they even made a sequel to that. Oh my god. You'd like the first one to a point, Greg, but then again, you'd probably have the same problem I did with it. It's like, these fuckers deserve it. They're breaking into his house.
Yeah.
It's weird because for me, it's like, I don't know. Tom might not share the same perspective as me. With the
I was kind of pissed at the movie Runner. I'll be honest with you. Maybe the second one I would like.
You probably no, because I mentioned this. Like I wrote a letterboxed review for both movies late last night, and I basically point out in I wrote in the second movie, I said I like, and this is just for me. I know you won't share this.
Stephen Lang, isn't that the guy that's in it?
Stephen Lang, yes, and he's fantastic.
Yeah.
I'll say this. Yes, what they do is wrong in the first movie, the robbers and shit. No, obviously, the reason why in my review I did say that to me they did a good job making you root for those characters just because they're the main fucking characters.
See, that's one of the reasons.
But you're also closer to their age, Runner. I wanted those stupid brats to fucking die.
Okay, that's why. I understand that.
Somebody breaks in my fucking house, they better run. And not only that, if I'm blind and you're breaking in my house, oh, you're going straight to hell for that one.
No, I get it. I get that. Maybe it's an age thing. You're probably not wrong about that. But
that's me. Like when I saw the trailer and I was like, why the fuck would I root for these two little annoying shits breaking into this guy's house? That sounds like a movie where you just want the guy to kill him.
I mean,
you know, I want at least the people that I'm watching
blind dude on top of it all.
And I'm gonna have some kind of connection with the people breaking into his house.
I won't. Like what they do is shit. I'll admit that, but
I'm trying to remember the ending now.
No,
it's been about 5 years since I've seen it.
I don't want to spoil it. I'll spoil it for Greg if I don't know if he even gives a shit.
I don't know if he'll ever see it.
Yeah, I probably won't watch it. You guys, but plus I already know about
only one survivor makes it out. That's all I'm gonna say. And Stephen Lang gets off the hook.
Yeah.
Stephen Lang he doesn't get in trouble at all.
I know about the turkey baster. So I know about that.
But I did mention in my review for the second one that the second one does a really good job making you root for Stephen Lang's character, which is why I think Tom would like that one more.
Good. He's in the right.
He is.
Well, no, like, I mean, because I'll say this. In the first movie, he does something that's very fucking messed up. I'll say that much.
That's what I'm saying.
Tom might know what I'm talking about, but I remember...
The turkey baster?
Yeah, the turkey baster. He doesn't know what a turkey baster is. I guarantee he doesn't know what a turkey baster is.
Squirt thingy.
Yeah. That was like the weirdest shit.
Honestly, at that point, the movie had lost me. So I was watching it at the time because my girlfriend at the time was watching it, and I'm just like, some of the shit you watch, because she would watch some of these fucked up horror movies. It's one of the few things we had in common. But she would even go farther than I would. Like she would watch some shit I would shut off eventually. Like, there was a lot of times that I was just like, I can't believe you're gonna finish watch this. There's no way I'm gonna make it through this. That's when I remember sitting through with her, and I'm just like, yeah, that was bad.
I will say that I know I saw some people complaining that they made him an anti-hero in the second one, but I will say I did hear more people. I think more people said they liked the second one more than they liked the first one.
I like the
From
first
what
one
I
more.
remember.
I actually kind of like the first one more.
Really?
I mean, the second one is good. I don't know. And
kind of the problem you have with some horror movies, especially like, I mean, when you step into the territory of like the old slasher films, is that when they realize that the killer is the star, that's one thing, but it shouldn't be that way in your first couple movies, though. At the same time, I mean,
Yeah.
and not to bash on the movie at all, but it's like, okay, they went about this the whole wrong way, I guess. And yeah, the guy's a creepy psycho in certain ways, but it's their own dumbass fault for breaking into his fucking house.
oh
That's
no,
the thing.
that is true. That is true.
Once you introduce a killer, because yes, eventually the killer will become the star of the movies, because that's what people will return to see. You see it with multiple slasher movies, but the first movie usually is the killer is the shark from Jaws, like everybody says.
Yeah. Well, the best one I think of is Friday the 13th Part 4, right? Because you have the perfect balance of kids you don't want to see die and a bunch of them that you can't wait to see die.
Exactly.
You know, so it's kind of like, you know, because you got the Teddy dude who's just creepy as fuck and he deserves it. You got Crispin Glover who dies beautifully in anything that he dies. Yeah. You got those guys that you want to see off. You got those bitchy twin sisters and shit like that you want to see die. You know, like I said, half the characters in that movie you want to see die. The other half, like Corey Feldman, the hitchhiker guy, his sister's
mom.
His sister's mom, you don't want to see die because, you know, you like them. That's a good balance there, right? In a movie like this, you have to give me a reason not to side with the bad guy in the first movie off the bat. And it's not your fault, Runner. I'm just saying. Sorry, I don't mean to sound like we're demeaning you at all. It's the movie itself.
No, I get it. Like, I understand why you don't like the main characters. It's understandable. Like, what they do is shit. Like yeah,
kind of like I know what you did last summer. I'm like, these people are too fucking stupid not to die.
We hit a guy with a car, let's throw him in the water and forget about it. Why is this guy killing us?
The cops because you had an accident, you dumb fucks. The person stepped out in the middle of the fucking road on you in a highway. In most cases, you're gonna not get put in jail for that. Just say
it. Oh, I feel for you, Random Brad. That had to have been an experience. Especially watching with your daughter at that scene in the first one.
Oh my god, if your kid's even noticing that.
Yeah.
Look, I like the concept from the trailer, so that's why I gave it a shot watching it with my girlfriend, but I regretted it pretty quick. I'm surprised I made it as far into it as I did. And I think it was mainly just because at that point I was rooting for Stephen Lang's character. Like, kill them sons of bitches.
Take them little pricks out.
No, but like that one part where like he tells let's just say he gets a girl pregnant because of he lost his daughter.
We know the turkey baster. Yeah,
it's I know what you meant by that.
Here's the thing, and this movie could have been better had they done it like we're gonna take the scene from you know Clockwork Orange, only we're gonna turn it on its head. Let's have a bunch of punk ass kids break into somebody's house because it's some rich fucker's house. But little do you realize he's like some old decrepit CIA agent played by, I don't know, like Denzel Washington or something like that, or Stephen Lang, you know? And that's a big mistake. That's a movie.
Yeah.
This was just kind of like, I don't know what they were, the concept they're trying to do here. It kind of reminded me of the convoluted shit with John Goodman in that, when they're underground, the Cloverfield sequel that never really was
Cloverfield Lane or whatever.
Where you're just still trying to throughout most of the movie, you're just like, okay, is this guy for real or is he a fucking psycho? Is this shit really going on? It's like I hate this drag it out bullshit kind of movie. I don't like those kind of movies, and this reminded me of something like that.
No, I've only seen the first Cloverfield, so I can't speak on that. But I'll say this. Probably the one thing, the one like minor gripe I had with the second is I thought it would be a continuation like right off of the first one, but it's not. It's a completely different story. because the way the first movie ends, I thought it was going to continue with the one survivor. Because at the very end, where he's like, "Oh, he doesn't get in trouble," so I would have thought, "Oh shit, she's in trouble." The one who survived. So I was like, "Oh, that would be an interesting like next movie." But no, they tell you a completely different story.
Yeah.
Which I was okay with. I didn't. I do like how you do root for, Stephen Lang's character, but he's not like perfect. He like, and I'll tell you this.
Hell no, but that's what I'm saying. That's a problem with the film, right?
No, well, here's the thing. And if you watch the second movie, this isn't too much of a spoiler, but like, he does acknowledge that he is this monster at the like around the end of the movie. I'll leave it at that. And I actually did really like that. That's what really won the character over for me at the end.
All right.
Because I do really like, maybe I love the concept. Maybe the real reason I like the concept is, yeah, it's you try to not make any fucking noise. Honestly, it's better than the A Quiet Place movies, in all honesty.
It might be because I watched. I know people don't like this, and they like this movie, but I watched the first Quiet Place. I thought it sucked.
I know you didn't like it, but I think
I thought it sucked real bad. I was like,
I thought Don't Breathe was better.
It might be. It really might be.
I mean, I like this. I like this. It's, you know what's funny? I like the first Don't Breathe better than the second, but I like the sequel to A Quiet Place better than the first A Quiet Place. The sequel to A Quiet Place is way better than the first movie.
Well,
I think that had more to do with Cillian Murphy, though. I'll be honest.
All right, but you know, I doubt I'll watch them. Maybe one day, but it's good. I'm glad that you found something that you're passionate about. Though that's what I like.
No, I really, as messed up as these movies are, I actually kind of like them for that. I don't know why.
That's a good thing.
Maybe it's because it's like, fuck, man. I wish there were. I feel like there are some horror movies that don't take as much risk, like fucking Freddy Alvarez, who directed the first movie. He also directed the 2013 Evil Dead.
Mm-hmm.
I remember watching the first Don't Breathe, and I'm like, fuck, man, why didn't they get him to direct the new Scream movies? Not those radio silence fuckers.
I think Fedez Alvarez is more in the line of like that type of horror movie. Plus, if I remember correctly,
I know he's more of a Sam Raimi type
he said
director.
He said when he did the Evil Dead movie, he liked doing it, but he felt constrained because he likes to do original stuff. He doesn't like to be.
Yeah, I get it. But like, it's because like there are some modern horror movies like you, Greg, I'm not a big fan of. Like, a lot of people love Happy Death Day. I didn't like it for some reason.
I actually liked Happy Death Day, and I think I might pick those up on 4K, which I don't have on 4K.
Yeah, you see,
don't get me wrong. I know people don't like them and everything, and but I don't know. They're just so fun.
I just didn't like the ending. The ending ruined it.
Didn't bother me, but the woman that played the main woman, man, she's got this appeal. Plus, she's hot.
No, she's fine.
So, she's just got this appeal that I really liked. It made me really like the movies.
What else? I didn't like. Oh God, Ready or Not. That was another movie I didn't.
Oh, no, that's Radio Silence. That's Radio Silence people. Them people can't direct for shit.
I know. A lot of people love that movie, and I'm like, I found it kind of cringe.
I fast forwarded, watched Scream 6 while I was that bad.
Oh, really?
Oh my God,
dude!
I mean,
like,
you know, how do you make Billy Loomis's daughter the fucking main fucking person of this fucking thing?
Dude, I remember dude. Tom, tell me.
Yeah, we all know Loomis wouldn't have a daughter because we know what Wes Craven thought of the character in the first movie, and that he was a virgin, and that he was literally one focus.
He literally said that in the audio commentary for the first movie. Billy Loomis is a fucking virgin. That's literally what he said.
I know. That's how you know these radio silence
What's
stupid
worse
fuckers are not fans.
is I fast forwarded through it and I didn't even have to listen to the dialogue, and I could pretty much still figure out what was going on.
No, it's here's the thing, Tom. I don't know if you caught this or not since you fast forwarded it, but Billy Loomis's daughter, for some fucking reason, it makes no sense, but the very beginning of her like wanting to like fix things up for the family, wanting to protect her sister, I was like, I was all for that. But then when you realize, oh, she's got this secret boyfriend, and I'm like, you're a fucking idiot. This dude could possibly kill you. I'm like this character's an idiot.
All of them are. And the only reason I think people even went to see him in the first place is because Wednesday Addams was in him. I'll be honest with you.
Yeah. She's probably like, I mean, I didn't hate her character as much just because I think she's a decent actress. It's just she has to work with a shitty script. That's the problem. And the twist is stupid. It's literally Scream 2, just not as good.
No, I saw that. I watched like the bit where they go into the thing and it's all the masks and all that shit. And she goes up to her dad's fucking mask and knife and they have him in the fucking... Oh, God. I saw that. I'm just like, really? How are people even trying to defend this stupid shit?
It's not good.
This would be like if they had the son of Freddy and they tried to make her like the...
Tom, did you also see...
Anyway.
Tom, this is another thing that bothered me, along with a lot of other things. Did you realize how many times Chad got fucking stabbed and ended up living at the end?
That's what gets me too. I mean, I've stuck to my guns. I have not watched Scream 6, and I will not watch Scream 6 because Scream 5, that ruined it for me. But that's the thing I keep seeing is, okay, so we know Dewey and Sydney and Gail. Yeah, they're 3 survivors out of 4 movies. Got it. But everybody else fucking died, and they have like, what, 7 fucking survivors in each movie that are still going?
And I still don't understand why Kirby's there.
It's true.
Yeah. Honestly.
It's like they're afraid to kill anybody.
No, I mean... Here's the thing.
They finally killed Gail in this fucking movie, I guess, but whatever.
No, she lives.
She's still alive? Okay,
yeah.
I didn't see that
part. They confirmed.
Oh, for crying out loud.
They got to keep it going.
The joke worked with Dewey. You can only really do it with Dewey, right? Because he is kind of like that guy. Like, that's kind of the whole point, is he's like, he's the hero, but he's not the hero, right? He only lived in the second one because of the scar tissue from the first one. You know, just the little things, you know. And it's like, that's Dewey's just kind of unstoppable in that way, and that's why he kind of always has to be there. It's like, if anything, he's the only one that made sense being in the last one besides Gail. That's why I said that Nev Campbell not being in this one was probably a plus. But at the same time,
it actually was.
I don't really give a fuck. Because at this point, I don't give a fuck about any of these kids.
Exactly.
I don't give a shit that any of them are supposed to be related anymore to anybody. I don't give a shit. I didn't care. You know what? And that says a lot for any other movies, because usually slasher films can introduce a completely new crop of kids. But Scream has managed not to do that. And it's almost like preordained to be able to do it. And they still managed to fuck it up. But anyway, we went from...
Yeah, we went from that.
Don't breathe the screen. That's only because I said, like...
Almost anybody could have made a better Scream movie than those guys did, but at this point, it should have been left the fuck alone. It's like they never even watched part 4.
Exactly.
You know, and a lot of people are like, oh, I never really watched it, or I didn't care for it. It's like, yeah, but if you watch it, it says everything you need to know about these current movies. In fact...
reboots, requels, all that.
Don't fuck with the original.
Exactly.
You know what?
That's why you knew they did not watch the original, because if they would have watched it, they would have known Wes Craven said Billy the Virgin. Plain and simple.
Exactly.
And this is my brother. If you're giving me the Scream 6 steelbook, I'll throw it out the door. I won't watch it. Oh. That's my birthday is actually this Sunday, so
get him The Longest Yard. Make it worthwhile, brother.
Yeah.
Since my brother stole my DVD of The Longest Yard, make it like a full circle thing. And
actually show your brother that you love him and you don't hate him. If you send
a
him the
manly
Scream
movie.
6 steelbook, like that he'll never talk to you again, probably. But I'll say this: if you do wanted to do Scream 5 and 6, you know who you should have gotten to direct those movies? The Duffer Brothers.
Yeah, I would say
Possibly,
way better.
I just don't
way
see.
Better.
They tried doing it with that TV series on MTV, and that had a bit of its following or whatever. I tried so hard to watch that show, could not get through the pilot episode. I tried twice.
Oh,
to get through
Things?
it. No, Scream. The
yeah,
MTV
Scream
show.
Oh, that.
Yeah, the Scream MTV show.
And I mean, at that point, it's like if you're going to do something, it's maybe something like that. But even that was just kind of.
Yeah, that show never interested me, honestly.
I mean,
it's
even
bad.
Chucky has kind of proven that this is not necessarily maybe the way to go about this, because the first season was fine. The second season was roller coaster of weirdness. Not in a good way. It's like Chucky's gone woke, kids. But anyway, moving on. Yeah. What have you got for us, Greg?
All right. But the best part of that TV show was when the movie ended.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I sort of went down memory lane, considering one title we'll talk about here in a little bit. It spurred me to want to watch other stuff that I haven't seen in a while. So I watched Bogus Journey. I didn't watch part one. I was Bogus Journey, Bill and Ted. I missed out on the separate versions. I have the steelbook with all the special features of part one, and I know you said the 4K isn't that great of the first movie, but I haven't seen.
It's all right.
Yeah, I haven't seen Bogus Journey in forever, and this is the Shout one, not the other one, but the cheaper one, just because I wanted Bogus Journey. Yeah, I had seen that in forever. And I just had a blast watching it I actually watched it last night. Yeah, so it was a fun time. Catch you later, Bill and Ted. Good robot usses, evil robot usses. It was so good. It was fun. It was a fun movie. Station.
I gotta rewatch those movies. It's been a while.
And I'm gonna say.
So does that have all the special features on it?
Then, no, sadly, I'm going to have to upgrade to the other.
Because if I remember right, it was like 2 discs for the movie, and then they had the bonus features on a 3rd disc.
No, I just bought this real quick, real cheap. It was like $5, just so I could watch part 2. But I am going to have to upgrade to the. It's just one disc. I'm going to have to upgrade to the other set where they've got both discs and special features. Because I was going to buy the steelbook, the Bill and Ted steelbook for this Bogus Journey, but it went OOP and it's like $60-$70 now. So, so I'm going to have to upgrade this to the other set.
I own the Blu-ray with the 3 movies, but it's like a Orion and Warner Brothers release.
Yeah, and I'm going to say something. After watching the second movie last night, and I was thinking back on the third one, I don't think I like the third movie anymore. And I don't mean that in a bad way. It's not like it's not fun. It has great stuff in the third movie, but like the second movie ends so good, so great. I kind of feel like it didn't need the third movie. That's just my opinion now. Maybe I need to watch the third movie again just to make sure. But
the thing I liked about the third movie is they didn't ignore Bogus Journey, because in most cases,
no, they didn't. They didn't.
Considering how Bogus Journey was received by most people.
Right.
Like only in recent years have people come out and said, no, actually, I like Bogus Journey. In fact, there's some people who would say it's probably a better film in some ways. I don't know about it being a better film. I compare it like Godfather and Godfather 2 in a way, or whatever you want to look at it. Because Bogus Journey is almost a completely different film from the first film. And that's, I think, what makes it unique is that the studio just kept trying to push them. And you can go check out my interviews with Ed Sullivan about this whole thing, where he's like, the studio just kept trying to push them to do basically the same movie over again. Right? They didn't.
Yeah. No, I thought the third movie was all right, but I only watched it once.
I like it. It's not nearly as good as the first 2.
Hell no.
I mean, I think it's still all right, but I don't know, man. After I'm gonna have to go through it again, because after watching the second one, because I've loved the second one since it was released. I know a lot of people didn't at first, like you mentioned, but I loved this the second one. And I was watching it last night, and that ending, it's like we've been all around the world, we've been to the afterlife, and it just felt like that's where it ended. And then when it just I don't know, but it was fun. I love the movie. I love the Bill and Ted characters; they're great characters. It was just a fun time, and death is still damn right.
Well, and he's probably the best part of Bogus Journey too.
Exactly, man.
I
It's
mean,
like,
the third film, even I meant.
oh
Sorry,
yeah,
but
yeah.
like,
When
Oh
he
yeah,
finds,
for
but
sure.
yeah, he's the best part of
yeah.
Bogus Journey as well.
That's
but
really,
like, yeah.
honestly, that's really when that movie picks up, is when they go to hell and get
Pretty
death.
much.
Yeah.
Well, because it is kind of an offbeat kind of film when you think about it. And, you know, Ed said, you know, they were in different places. They were fighting with the studio, what the studio wanted. They made them slash the budget, and they ended up having to rewrite a bunch of shit. And I love the story of how Station became to be. And like, just everything about it. And like, you know, I tried to ask him about all the you know, the third, because the weird thing is they did shoot a bunch of that shit, but we've never seen it to this day. Like, I'm not even 100% sure they know where the negative of Bogus Journey is.
Yeah,
I'm still questioning whether
that.
or not that the 4K scan of Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure is actually from the negative or not, to be honest with you. But like the movies have such a sordid history. Orion, of course, being a studio that was on the brink for the better part of a decade there, and Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey was one of the last movies they released at this long line end of this slow death. You know, a lot of people blame RoboCop and some of the other movies like that, but Bill and Ted Bogus Journey didn't do as well as the first film, but it did manage to, I think, at least make its money back, if I remember right.
Wouldn't it was barely. Like a $3 million budget, would they made like $5 million or something?
Something along those lines. Yeah, they did okay, in America, but not. Yeah, and plus once you add in all the ancillary stuff, and it did okay on video from my recollection and stuff like that. And I mean, Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey kind of came out near the height of Bill and Ted Fever too, which was kind of strange that it must have been near the end of it because, or I don't know what competition it went up against in '91, because, and just leading up to it, you had the cartoon, the live action TV series, all the toys, the cards, the cereal, which was very popular. You know, it's not like they weren't very popular. They had an ongoing comic book series and stuff that I have and everything. And I mean, they had a lot of stuff going for them at that time. It just seemed like maybe that was the last bastion of what was left of, you know, this franchise that was on its way out. Or if at the time, I think the bigger thing was people were kind of taken aback by Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey. Because if you look at that movie, I'm sure you noticed it watching it now, compared to the first movie, it's a completely different tone.
Oh yeah,
completely different.
Different, yeah.
Yeah, the way it's produced, the way it looks, they got the different director kind of makes it look different in a lot of ways than the first. It doesn't have, and this is one thing Ed completely owns. You know, he's like, it does have a little bit of a bite to it, of mean-spiritedness to it that's not in the first film, because the first film is very much a light-hearted kind of fairy tale kind of comedy, right? Like there's nothing in it you couldn't show your grandma, really. But the second film, that goes some deep dark places, and not like over the edge dark, but like, yeah, it's not quite the same thing. And I could see the reaction at the time, because like my cousins hated it, and I hated my cousins because they were the reason I didn't get to go see it in theaters.
Oh,
short story long, I would waiting and fucking wait. Like this was my movie in '91 besides Batman Returns, if I remember right, because like I was waiting for Bill and Ted, and that one came out later in the summer. And my cousins had come to visit, and that was the whole thing. My parents were like, you can go see it if your cousins want to go. I'm like, well, they better fucking want to go, because I've been wanting to see Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey since I heard about it. You know, like,
yeah,
this, and I can't believe my parents did this shit to me. I hope they feel bad for it. They probably don't even remember it, but so I brought it up to my cousins. My cousins are like, oh, we already saw that. It sucked.
Oh, mother.
So that is why I did not get to see Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey in theater. I could have killed my cousins for that. I'm like, you fuckers.
That
I don't give a shit. And these are the same cousins always pissed me off, because whenever they would come over and be like, what do you guys want to rent to watch? I'd be like, Gremlins. And they'd be like, we don't want to watch Gremlins. Yeah. And they'd pick whatever Disney movie and shit like that. It's like, you fuckers.
Oh, that sucks.
That sucks, man. I mean, I've always loved it since I don't think I got to see it in theaters, but I've always loved it, and I saw it, I rented it, and I enjoyed it. And you're right. That's one of the things I like about it, is that it's not repeating the same movie, that it is a different movie with these characters, and it just feels like the natural progression of the characters. And yes, it does get a little darker. It's much more like Empire Strikes Back. They go to hell. It gets a little meaner. They have evil robots that want to kill them, and the evil guy. It's something different for them to go up against, and them instead of them just having to travel through time to do their history project, they have somebody that actively wants to destroy the future they're setting up. And so they have the Anomalous, the sit-up champion of the 23rd century, chasing them. And I mean, the one thing that it lacks is Rufus. I mean, we needed a little more Rufus, I think. But other than that, I think it's a great movie. I love it, and it looks like it went up against Terminator 2.
That is another thing that killed it. Yeah. That was a dumb move on Orion's part. And I can see where they're at. Like fuckers, we had Terminator 1 and they're doing Terminator 2. Well, we're going to put up Bill and Ted. We'll squish them. Oops.
Yeah.
And for those who don't remember, Orion released the original Terminator, but not the sequel.
Yeah, and then I think it was TriStar that released the second one, right?
Well, and the thing that killed Orion, and I'll stand by this, it wasn't so much RoboCop, Bill and Ted, and some of these other movies that they spent a little bit of money on and they didn't return. That didn't help. But the dumbest thing that Orion did was mid-production, not pre-production, mid-production, they sold Addams Family to Paramount Pictures because they needed some quick cash. And the amount of money that fucking movie made could have saved that studio. Right. So for those who don't remember, that same year, I think it was 91, wasn't it? 91, the Addams Family came out?
Was it 91? I think
was it Christmas of 91? That movie was made bank. Like, it did well.
Yeah, it did. The first Addams Family did great. Yeah.
Let's see here. Yeah, I want to say it came out Christmas of 91. Yep. Christmas of 91.
Yes, there you go. And that could have saved Orion's butt right there.
I think so. I really do. I stand by that. Because the small amount of money that they were spending on things, it was not, it was too much for them, but it was not like the amount of money that Addams Family made would have got them out of debt.
Mm-hmm.
I really think so at the end of the day.
It's a shame. It's a shame. I always liked Orion, and I do like Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey. I really do. I may have to give the third one another go, but to be honest with you, after watching the second one again, and then I've skimmed through the first one, of course, because I have it. I don't know if I like the third one so much anymore. But it's not that I don't like it, because it still does have some really great stuff in it. I don't know. I have to give it another look. But anyways, that was I sort of went nostalgic with the Bill and Ted's this week, and so there you have my first pick of the night. So if you guys are ready to get into, because we have talked longer than I anticipated, let's get to the big pick of the night here for everybody to see. And Tom's got the best set, I know.
Yeah, he does.
So let's just go ahead, turn your cameras on if you got them ready right now.
I'll show you yours if you show me mine.
It's a big box.
Oops, it's outside of.
I know and I'm just noticing now that like my case, I don't know if you guys can see here. I mean, my Superman 2, the original Superman 2, is in a different case than the rest of them. It's weird. What? It's like, it's a darker case and it's different. I don't know here. I'll see.
Is it because it has more discs in it?
Maybe.
Because obviously.
See if I blow mine up here real quick, if I can.
I think that's why.
Can you guys see
it? The size of it. Yeah, it's bigger.
Yeah. And blacker.
Well, it is how they did it in the Steelbook is you got this, and then it's weird because then you flip it around and it's like this. So inside, you actually have 4 discs spread over instead of just the 2 like every other one.
Is that the Donner cut and the original Superman 2?
Which kind of sucks.
No, I wish they would have Superman 2. This is just original Superman 2.
Well, that's
weird. The Donner cut comes in.
Well, no, the Donner cut comes in. Yeah, it comes in its own separate.
That's
box.
Yeah.
I wish they had either done that or just kept it because they ruined the backs of them. Like because on the back of each of the other ones, this is the back of one. this is the back of 3.
Oh,
I don't know if you can see
listen,
it.
this is
Oh.
Tom. This is 2
Oh,
right
okay.
here. Here's the Richard Lester one.
Oh,
Here's
yeah,
the
it
Donner.
does. It messes up the
Donner cut
flow
is
of
the
it,
one
doesn't
with
it?
Zod and all
Yeah,
of
and
them.
then of course 4. But then so on the back of 2, you got the upside down Richard Donner cut, which this is a cool image, but I'd rather just as soon have just this. And you just that
and then
happen
the
both of
S on
them.
the back
Fuck
like
it.
the other ones.
Yeah, and you can have like Superman and then the 2, and then underneath it you can maybe have the Richard Donner cut or something like that too, or something. But no, and of course, at the end of the day, I mean, they're very glossy and they got a matte finish in certain parts. There's some non-uniformity, I will say. That was not to get too picky right off the bat, but some of these have like a weird, matte finish with these kind of elements are shiny, but now like this one, the whole thing is shiny. There's no matte parts to it. Same thing with this one is it's really just flat shine, no matte part to it at all.
Weird.
And this one has a bit of a matte on the background, and then this part sticks out. So again, no uniformity there. And as you can see on the sides, like the titles do not line up real well at all.
Oh,
like they're really kind of chonky in a way. Like they look really dumb. But other than that, I mean, okay. I guess where do you want to start with this, Greg? Because there's a lot to get into.
We'll start say by first the Superman 1 is the same scan as the previous 4K that was released.
There's some caveats to that, but
yeah. We'll talk a little bit about the caveats, and then we'll just run down the movies from 1 to 4, however you guys want to do it. Because I'm sure we'll talk about the Donner cut and all that first.
See, and this is where they could have put the Donner cut, actually.
Let me see.
That's what I thought they were going to do.
Because all it is in here is just this. It's all shoved in this part here. It's like this is a waste of space. Like all this is just a waste of space. And I don't know why they did that. That makes no sense. Because all that could have went inside. All that could have went inside one of the, like here. You know what I mean? Why would rather have the Donner cut had its own case if they're going to do that?
Exactly.
Or they could have put the bonus disc in there, which is the other part we could get into the point of contention here.
Go ahead. Let's start with that.
We want to start there is the problem.
Go ahead.
Because let's be real here. You're not getting a shit ton of special effects or special features you're missing. Most of which were found on here. But before we get into that, since you brought it up already, let's start there. What are the differences between this version and this version here? Well, simple. There's one main difference. And that is this version has the 5.1 70 millimeter mix. Aside the new Dolby Atmos mix. This one only has the 2.0 stereo mix alongside the Dolby Atmos mix. So they took off the rarer of the sound mixes from this version for some reason. Nobody can tell us why, or why they just didn't add the 2.0 mix, which couldn't have taken up that much room. But for some reason, because this was the first time they had ever had the Dolby 6-channel 70 millimeter mix on home video.
I wonder why they did that for real.
And for those who know, there's a huge history with how they've changed the sound effects on a lot of these films in their remixes. And Superman is one of the main ones that gets griped about a lot. And there are a lot of changes. Just checking 1 or 2 scenes, you can see a variant of changes in the sounds they use. Like, they add things that were never there before, or gun sounds that didn't sound the way they wanted them to, more punchier for a more surround mix. But this film was already done in surround. So to me, there's no excuse for it either way.
Yeah.
Like, I can understand if you're having to upgrade a sound mix that you don't have the original library for or something like that, and you can't really make it work in a stereo mix. But this makes no sense. You had a 6-channel stem to work from to begin with. Why didn't you just fucking use that?
Exactly.
Because they're just little stupid things too that are missing or were changed. Do do we really need an extra when the thing comes up?
Yeah.
Does that really make that much of a difference? And to some people, they have seen this movie so many times that it's like listening to a record album. Mm-hmm. You know, and those are the people who always pick out the differences right away when it comes to a remaster, right? And again, overall, the superior mix is the Dolby Atmos mix. It doesn't really matter. It uses so much of the atmospheres, the additions at the end of the day. I understand those who don't like them, but it adds an extra punch to the film. The 6-track mix is okay. It's good. It's very good for a film that's 40 plus years old. But at the end of the day, the Dolby Atmos mix at home, if you have a Dolby Atmos system, is going to utilize it the best. It has the most punch, it has the most atmosphere. You know, you've got stuff like when the titles come and stuff like that, it actually feels like it's flying over you and such. But okay, at the end of the day, most people aren't going to give a shit. They're either going to watch it in one form or the other.
True.
You get some of the special features on there, because what you get here is the theatrical cut, just like you did here on a bonus disc that has the bonus disc of theatrical features that were in this set, depending on which variant you have on it. I have the import version. I think the only difference between the import version and the US version is the US version opens like this on the top instead. So yeah, if you have this, I'd hang on to it because it's missing, not just missing Superman Returns. From the expanded edition, you're missing the Richard Donner and Tom Mankiewicz commentary, I believe. I'm not sure. I'd have to look and check, but I don't believe that's on there. You're missing the Taking Flight documentary, The Making of Superman and the Legend, The Magic Behind the Cape, if I remember right. Those were produced back in 2001 or 2000 for the original box set. So those wouldn't be on here. You're also missing the restored and additional deleted scenes, screen tests, the music-only track, and the bonus tracks. Which, of course, if you have the soundtrack, the newer 3-disc soundtrack, you probably have most of that already anyway. And then you're also missing everything that was on the bonus disc. And that includes the 2-hour Bryan Singer-produced documentary, Look Up in the Sky, which is actually a really excellent documentary.
Yes, it is.
And it is a bummer that it was not carried over here. You're also missing the 5-part documentary, You Will Believe a Man Can Fly, which I think is quintessential to this set. I don't know why it shouldn't be. It's one of the greatest.
Yeah, that should definitely.
Not one of the greatest, but it's one of the better of this era. It was the produced for the redo box set in 2006. That corresponded with Superman Returns coming out, and it covers all 4 films and Supergirl. And it's not here; it's missing, and it actually has, some of the latter interviews with some of these people we no longer have with us, like Margot Kidder and Richard Donner, for instance, and Tom Mankiewicz. And that's where, like, a lot of the material that any of us would talk about, that's where we learned about a lot of this stuff. Was that documentary? Because that's the one that finally got into some of the nitty gritty about what really went the fuck down behind the scenes.
With Richard Donner and Richard Lester and the Salkinds. I remember watching that.
Which we'll probably talk a little bit about that. But anyway, go ahead, Runner.
I got a question for you, Tom.
Sure.
Did you say that the making of Superman is not in the 4K set? Because I looked
one of the making ofs. The other one.
Oh, okay.
The original 78 television special is on there. Basically everything that's on the original Superman disc. So you got the Pierre Spangler and Ilya Salkind commentary. I don't know if they cut down Richard Donner's commentary or not. I didn't look. You've got the Making of Superman, the movie, the vintage TV special, the 51 feature, Superman and the Mole Men, and classic cartoons, Super Rabbit, Snap, Hooperman, Stupor Duck, and some theatrical trailers and TV spots. As far as I know, that's all that's included with this version on the bonus disc, because it's the same exact disc that was in this set.
Got it.
And it's the same thing in the newer ones, too.
Because in the back of this one that I have that came with the box, it says in the back, like, also on Blu-ray, the Making of Superman the movie. So that's why I asked.
And it's a great documentary. I wish they'd upgrade that in HD.
Yeah, that would have been nice.
Because it's a classic hour-long television special that they have for the first 3 films. Actually, there's a companion to them. But again, you're also missing from that bonus disc. that besides that 90-minute and 2-hour documentary, you're missing the TV special, The Science of Superman, The Heart of a Hero, the tribute to Christopher Reeve, and the unaired TV pilot of Adventures of Super Pup. And there's one more that's not on here, but it will come up again here in a few minutes, and that is the mythology of Superman, legend, folklore, and cultural influences.
Mm-hmm.
That will come up in our next conversation, but that's the other thing that you're missing. So keep that in mind, kids. This is not a definitive box set. I'm pissed about that. It's like, this is bullshit, to be honest with you. I hate sounding like an ingrate here, because the movies, for the most part, do look good.
Yeah, they do look pretty good.
Great.
Yeah, they do.
But this feels like an incomplete fucking set.
Yeah, it's like they could have added a little more to them.
So much compared to what they put into this and its original DVD version of it, which I believe you have, Greg, still, which got stolen from me.
The Big Tin can.
Yes, the Big Tin. That's all this is.
And I have the Blu-ray stuff too. I have them too. Yeah. Well, it's a different set, but
yeah. As long as you have the 8-disc version, it's the same. It's all the same stuff that's in that DVD set.
Yeah.
Content-wise.
Yes. And Brian Bart, there is special features on 4K. They're just not as many as what Tom was listing off there. So
all you get is the main, whatever was on the main Blu-rays is what you get. So there is some, but, not the shit that matters to me. The two that matter the most, aside from the original making of features, which are like I said, should have gotten upgraded, is the 2-hour and the 90-minute documentary that are on that bonus disc. The fact that those two are not carried over in this set in some way, somehow, is a complete snafu, in my opinion.
Yeah.
On top of some of the other minor gripes there are about this set that we'll get into, I'm sure, as we get going.
Yes. Sean wants to know, should he buy the 4K set or the Blu-ray set?
Do you have the old steel box set? If you have the old steel box set, that has all the same special features that you need. So if that's the case, then you could probably get away with waiting for the set that Greg and Runner have to be on sale. Because I have a feeling they're going to double dip us on this. Maybe we'll get into that here in a little bit, but yeah. I hate to say yes because it's not cheap. It's $100 for 4 movies.
I was gonna, yeah. I nearly spent over $100.
I actually got a refund on mine.
But
I got a $5 refund on mine. So they gave me $5 back because they went on sale after I bought it. And so they gave me my $5 back. So I got it for like $89. So yeah, it's an expensive set. If you have
basically any of the features that were on the original Blu-rays on the movie disc only versions, those features are carried over, but anything that was on any of the bonus features were not. It's just because that's on that bonus disc.
Brian Bart says, do you think the Bryan Singer stuff is what? No,
it's they should have just put this bonus disc in there. It makes no freaking sense. All you had to do is put this bonus disc in there. You didn't even have to do anything special to it. Just reprint it.
That's all you're really gonna do.
And it really would have cleaned up a lot of the things you're missing here, because that's really all the stuff you're missing aside from the special edition, which if you buy the TV cut comes with the special edition if you don't already have this set. Yeah, Sean, actually this set I think you can get pretty affordable, to be honest with you. Because I got an import version because it was cheaper at that time, and I think now you can get this
that's really cheap right now.
Pretty cheap now. Maybe even cheaper now that this other set's out. Because this even still has the embossed thing on it. The only difference is, like I said, is the US version of it has a break right here, and you pull up like this instead of it coming out of the side like this. But I actually kind of prefer this because my dumbass would have lost that by now, because I did the Batman set and then I found it years later. But I have a hard time recommending this movie set right now unless you can find it on a good sale. The movies themselves, if you don't care about the special features, fine.
Right.
They look great.
Because they do. They really do. Great. The first one still could use a little work, which they supposedly,
let's talk about that.
Yeah, they supposedly was supposed to give us a new scan of it, new color grade it, and we've heard rumors that it actually did happen, but we didn't. We get the same scan as the first release of the Superman in 4K. So
that's my number one gripe. Why no special edition of the first film, or AKA the Donner cut of the first film in 4K? This is a travesty. This is the version that Warner Brothers has released for years as basically the definitive version up until recently, for some reason.
Yeah. And I do miss the scenes like when he's walking through the underground with the train and they're putting the fire on him, the guns and the ice. You don't get that in this version, you know.
It's missing a lot of little bits and
Yeah,
pieces
it's
that I
missing a lot
missed.
of that stuff that I.
Because what Donner did is basically took the
love.
TV. Yeah, but what Donner did is basically took the TV version and cut it down to the stuff that he liked. So, you know, it's like a almost 2 hour and 45-minute roughly cut of the movie. Because the TV version's 3 hours. So if that tells you anything, there's still another 15 minutes of ancillary shit that just got added to the TV version.
Yeah.
And it is all right. It's cool to have it. It's out there on disc. But I'm like, bullshit. This is not the definitive version of this movie. I love the first film. Don't get me wrong. But for almost the better part of my life, I've been watching the Donner cut of Superman. And I don't like not having those scenes in there, Greg.
Yeah, I mean, same here. Because, like I said, I've come accustomed to love those scenes. Like when I watch Superman, that's what I think of. And then, like when I'm watching the 4K of this, which is, it's like I said, it's still good and all, but you do miss those scenes that because each release, like we've talked about, gave us that version of the Donner cut, as you call it, of the Superman 1, gave us that version of the film. And then
it's preferred, his preferred cut.
Yeah.
That's why I call it the Donner cut, because I believe he even says it on the commentary that this is his preferred cut.
Right. Exactly. And you do miss it. And I wish they would have put that one on 4K. I really think they could have done that.
And actually, if I remember correctly, that's also the Roadshow version cut of the movie, if they had one back in the day. Because I think I remember him saying something about that. Because for those who don't know, when they would do these special engagements before the movie would come out, they do these Roadshow versions, they were called, and they would actually be extended cuts of the film. They've done it with a few different movies. Blues Brothers was one of the last ones that I can recall. Like Mad World is one of the more famous ones that they've never found the complete Roadshow version of. But yeah, like that's really what it is, like an extra 15 minutes added onto the movie. Like Apollo 13 was kind of like that in a way. Like it's weird because we got basically the Roadshow version in theaters because it was shot and meant for IMAX, but at that time an IMAX movie couldn't be more than 2 minutes. So there's like 13 minutes or whatever that got lopped off the movie, like truncated out. It's in the theatrical cut that would basically be the equivalent. But then, so the last one they ever did was Hateful Eight. If you guys remember the extended cut of that in theaters, in the 70 millimeter theaters, Tarantino called that his Roadshow cut. Because it was like 15, 20 minutes longer.
Yeah. But
and that was eliminated by his extended cut anyway. So
yeah. But the first movie, I mean, the scan looks all right for the first movie. Everything to do with that. As now, I see Brian's asking about Superman 2, the Donner cut. We'll get into Superman, the two versions of Superman 2. Now, okay. Yes, the Donner cut was fully completed, for as best as it was, for the most part. If you're meaning part 2,
it's the same version we got before. It's not like it's
just in 4K now. Now, I will be honest with you. Superman 2, the Donner cut, is the better version of the film. It is so much better, so many better scenes, so much better takes. Zod and his crew are so much more evil. I love when Zod gets the gun and he just starts blasting people away, just like nonchalantly. I love it. It's great.
Yeah, Terrence Stamp is a great actor.
Oh man,
well, you know
amazing
what I realized is that basically a lot of the Donner cut was in the TV version. So I wish they would release a TV version of Superman 2 on disc like they did the first film.
Yeah.
Because then, and only then, could I finally do my definitive cut of the Superman films as one movie.
Yeah.
The first 2 movies.
Yeah.
Because I would recut the endings to make it the way... I would cut out the fucking stupid turning back the earth thing in both versions, actually.
I think we got to keep it in at least near the end of one of them.
I would make a version of 2 where it ends with it, where basically it ends with it at 2 like it's originally intended, and I would also do a version where it ends with the kiss instead, because to me that was never meant to be a part of the first film. They reworked the end of that first film to have it be in there when it was never meant to be there. So you can recut around that to end it the way that with the stuff they have on the Donner cut. And then there's a few things I would change in the Donner cut. I would first of all get rid of that diner scene at the end. It does not.
That's what I was going to say, because
it makes no fucking sense.
Exactly, because
I agree.
I like the yeah. I was going to say I was going to talk about
version with the alternate cut where I actually use the TV ending in my version.
Yes.
Where the Arctic Patrol actually take away.
Yes. That's in the deleted scenes there.
And you got Gene Hackman going, "Come on, you can be the
boxer.
The boxer.
Guy.
60-40.
Yeah. So I was just going to bring that up because I still like Superman 2, the Richard Lester.
All right, 10%. All right, 8%. All right, 5. 3, 2, 1%. Blast off. I would put that ending plus the kiss.
Yes.
I didn't have a problem with the kiss.
I
never had a problem with the kiss.
Neither did I.
It makes more sense. And again, because adding and that's where me having this idea of if Superman can go back in time and change things, it really messes with too much. So I would have I would never have that be a part of the movies. But I would probably do a version where just to make those happy that it does have the alternate ending of 2 on it. But it would not. It would basically what I would do is intercut it with the shit that's at the beginning of the Donner cut, and then that would literally lead into part 2. You wouldn't even have an intro into part 2. It just pick up with the Daily Planet right after the free. Yeah, you cut right to the Daily Planet scene, and then from there it would just pick up until the end.
Yeah,
I mean, but I would love to have the TV cut to even add more to it because there's other stuff, and most of that stuff was shot by Donner. That's the thing. There's a lot of the deleted stuff was. And there's I think it's an alternate take of, or there's an alternate ending that never made it onto the movie as well. When Lex Luthor, it's either the original version of how he escaped, or it was meant to be at the end of how he escaped again.
Yeah.
Did you see that in the deleted scenes with the car bit?
I don't think I did. No.
Okay, so what it is like him and Otis are working on a car for the
warden.
Warden, and he's going on a date, on a hot date, and of course it's Miss Tessmacher.
Oh yeah.
And Lex is already in the car. Yeah, no, and Lex is already in the car. And the way it comes off, I'm like, I wonder if this is meant to be at the very end of the movie, because this doesn't really fit. Because the one that's in the movie has always been the Donner version. Because that's the thing. For it to have Gene Hackman in it, that's a dead giveaway. Richard Lester did not get to work with Gene Hackman.
Yeah.
Gene Hackman was only there for the shooting of the first film. All of his scenes that are in the second film are stuff that Richard Donner shot. And all the other stuff was a body double, and that's why he sounds weird. Like, mush, Miss Tessmacher, mush, Nord.
That makes
sense. That's a voiceover guy.
And
you can see how the ending was completely recut, too. It's really easy to see how it was done. Because they actually went out of their way to have to get Gene Hackman out of a bunch of scenes they had to reshoot. So in the version that we have on the movie theatrical cut, he gets dumped on the way in by Ursa, and it's a voiceover guy. He's like, you can't get a decent ride around here, all that kind of shit. Because he flies in and he's there through the whole scene in the Donner cut. That's the initial version, right? So you see it there, and he's there the whole time. And there's even more to that I'm like, why didn't they add more of it back into this? This is like, it's all in the deleted scenes and stuff, and it's been in the TV versions. But no, my preferred cut is the Donner cut. It makes the theatrical cut of the movie look so bad in comparison. Like, I mean, I would almost argue that the theatrical cut of Superman 2 is almost worse than Superman 3 in some ways, because it's such a hodgepodge.
I'll get to that. But first, I want to a couple weeks late here because 99.99 Czar super chat says, "Great show tonight. My Scream 5 took a year from Zavi. Well, I wasted my money. I feel so sorry for you, man. Yeah. Oh man, I feel sorry for you that, man. But thank you for the super chat. For that, I'm gonna give you a special clip here. How about some where I gotta find it? Some busty women and some guns.
You son of a bitch!
Why did Richard Donner have to use the screen test cut for Brian? I think that's a pretty obvious answer.
Yeah, they didn't get to film it.
I think that's a pretty obvious answer. I mean, the beauty of it is now you could probably recut what's there with like a deep fake of using the bits from the screen test and put it over their faces in the honeymoon scene in part 2.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, that's really all you could do. I mean, what else could you do?
No,
and it's such an important, integral scene that you needed it, and it never got shot, unfortunately.
Yeah, that was a sad thing. But see, like, as you was talking about the theatrical cut, I still like the theatrical cut of Superman 2 because it's the cut I grew up with all the years until we finally got the Donner cut. So I still have an affection for it. I still like it and I can still watch it, but I do prefer the Donner cut. There are a few things with the Donner cut, like that scene with the screen test. It does take me out of the movie for a minute, but I get it, so it's no big deal. And yes, the scene where he goes back and beats up the guy at the diner, which you mentioned earlier, I was wanting to talk about this, because it makes no damn sense to be in that. It makes sense in the theatrical cut, even though it's something maybe Superman wouldn't really do, but it makes sense because even though he just erases Lois's memory, so he still has that, urge to go back and beat him up or whatever. And then in the Donner cut, he reverses time. He basically erases the whole movie.
Exactly.
He puts him back in Phantom Zone, and so like he's basically going there and beating this guy up, and this guy would have no idea why he's kicking his ass.
That's why I've
it never made sense to me either. It never did.
That's my biggest problem.
Donner must have cut Donner must have shot most of that stuff, even though that final scene for some reason feels like such a Richard Lester bit.
It does. Yeah.
I don't get it why it's there. I've never understood why it's there, because at that point it's like you just said, if he turned back the Earth, none of this shit happened in the first place.
Exactly.
That's why I've never been a huge fan of the concept of turning the Earth back in order.
Well, what he's really doing is going back in time. I mean, that's the.
I know.
They say it's the Earth because of how it looked, but really, that's all he's doing is going back in time.
Yeah, I just never was I was never a fan of that, like, ever. That always kind of bothered me because I'm like, that just creates problems. Like, I even had that problem with the first movie too, even though I think the second one does it worse, in all honesty, because of that scene. But yeah,
the Donner bits, and that's where I said I would do two different versions. I wouldn't have one-on-one, or I would switch it out for the other, because he actually contemplated doing the TV version, because I think that was another version that he had shot in his cut. Because, of course, it has to be with Gene Hackman. But for some reason, he didn't. I don't know why. It makes more sense at that point, because you already got the ending of unless you're going to do a recut of the first film, it makes no sense.
Mm-hmm. But it does look good. There is some, like you mentioned before, there's some jittery stuff in the Donner cut. And I wanted to bring this up before we move on to the other two movies. Looks like there was somebody in Lois Lane's apartment in the Donner cut when Superman drops her off.
It's actually in both of them.
Yeah, in both of them too, because I did notice. I went back and checked.
Who the fuck is in Lois Lane's house?
Oh, I wonder who that really is. It's just like her neighbor guy.
The way she hops in and stuff in there, I'm sure it's like a production person or whatever. Maybe it's like one of the cell kinds or something just sitting there. They didn't realize they were on camera, but yeah.
I like to think it's her landlord.
I didn't realize that.
It's like
I never noticed it before this time either. I'm just like going like, who the fuck is in her apartment?
I've come up with my mind that it's her landlord, and he's there to collect the rent. And she's like, "What are you doing? Gallivanting with Superman, flying across the skies of Metropolis. I got you owe me $200 in rent. Where you been, Miss Lane?
Shit, you were dead.
Yeah, give me the shit, you were dead. He reversed time. I saw him fly around.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Actually, by the looks of it, comparing it to like some of the behind the scenes things I've seen and the outfit that the individual's wearing, because you don't see their head, but you can kind of make out the suit. I think it's Ilya Salkind.
Probably.
It's either that or Pierre Spangler, one of those two, because it looks like because those guys would be one of the few that would be on the set with a suit on like that.
Mm-hmm.
And until they got in, especially in part 2, they would have probably been there even more than they were in part 1, because Donner kind of kicked them off the set. I mean, that's kind of the biggest thing, is like how in the world did Warner Brothers not take over that production and go, no, fuck you, Richard Donner needs to come back.
Exactly.
Because let's be real, in hindsight, that is the key to this whole thing. That is the magic spark that brought this whole thing together. Because he flat out says it. Like, he knows that the Salkinds and Pierre Spengler really had no clue what they were doing, in the sense that
Exactly.
they didn't really have a vision for this. And when he first looked at that first script, he was like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah, I
Because they
believe he
literally
did.
have a scene where Superman goes down and says hey to Telly Savalas, and he's like, who
Yes.
loves you, baby, and all that
Yes, I
shit.
was just about to bring that up because I remember that, and that's why he said, like, Richard Donner, who was American, he got it. He got Superman. He got the Americanness of him, and the homegrown, all that. And then like the Salkinds just did not get it. They were trying to make it like the sort of this campy, cheesy at certain points, like with Telly Savalas and stuff. They didn't get the Americanness of it because they weren't American. So.
Well, not just that, and Donner also knew you couldn't. They were trying to make basically like this. You could tell that the Newmans who had done the rewrite from Mario Puzo's huge fucking script, and that was the thing, is I love how they kind of even talk a little bit about that in the offer about he's got the deal for Superman, and then if you hear anything about it, one of my favorite Mario Puzo stories is the Superman story, because he got the job, right? I think it was paid quite a pretty penny at that time to write Superman. And they told him up front it's for 2 movies and all that kind of stuff. So you knew it had to be big and whatever. But when he worked on The Godfather, he never actually worked on the script part too much. He was just there with Francis Ford Coppola mostly. So he never actually sat down and written a script or a screenplay himself. So he's like, well, I'm going to have to learn how to do this correctly. So he goes out and he buys a book on how to write a screenplay. I shit you not. Turns to the first page, and it says, how to write a screenplay. First, read the screenplay for The Godfather. So he slammed the book shut and threw it down the table and said, son of a bitch. And he just went and wrote this massive, huge fucking just like Greek tragedy story of Superman, right? Like, I mean, it really was just the story of the first 2 movies that we got, all in this one grandiose 500-page script. And so the Newmans, they went and added their 2 cents to it and pared it down a bit and did what they had to do with it. But what they also did to it was they also added like the Batman humor of the 60s TV show.
Yeah.
Because you guys got to remember, they had never done a serious superhero movie before.
Yeah, Donner was the one that knew it had to be serious.
Yes, he's like, it needs verisimilitude. It needs... you need to believe Superman can fly. That's the first thing. He's like, I came in and they're like, oh, you should have no problem getting started because we've already done 1.5 years of pre-production. You guys got to understand, it took 5 years to get this movie made. 5 years. And they're like, oh, we already have 1.5 years done of pre-production. And he looked at it all and he's like, you guys got jack shit. Like, this looks like crap. He's like, you're not going to convince anybody that this guy's flying. And he's like, they had shit like they had remote control, like guys flying in the air. They literally shot a fucking dummy out of a cannon.
Yeah. I remember watching that on the
They got all this footage. Yeah. And this is a lot of the stuff that's on those documentaries that you're missing, right? Like, some of it's in the other ones, but I'm like, no, this is stuff that needs to be there. Because, like, he's like, what the fuck? Yeah. So then, like, they spent like a bunch more time trying to figure out what to do. And he's like, a lot of it was just us sitting down and figuring out, okay, we're going to have to use these 3 or 4 kind of techniques and what works best for this shot, for this shot, for that shot, pre-plan everything they could. And like he said off the bat, not to jump ahead, but casting Christopher Reeve was, the biggest key to this whole thing. Because not only did he look the part, he understood the part. Because like Greg was saying, Superman's Americana, right? Donner knew up front, you can't make fun of Superman. You can't make him. You can't make him the butt of a joke, and you can't make him be a joke. What you can do is change the world around him, but Superman cannot change. He is always going to be the big blue Boy Scout.
So that's why you get when he says, even though he's in Clark, when he says swell and Lois is like swell, there's not a lot of people that can, feel comfortable saying that, but he still, like that's Superman, and they're not making fun of him, but that's just who he is and everything, and it just works. It just works.
Well, he brought in his buddy Tom Mankiewicz, who is really the guy who deserves most of the credit for bringing the weight back to the story, because he's the guy who knew it had to be 3 acts. You have Metropolis is the 3rd act, you have Smallville is the 2nd act, but yet you have to establish everything, on Krypton. And that's and to them was a big deal because Marlon Brando was the money, right? Like, because this
Right.
when they first got the movie going, they had Marlon Brando and they had Gene Hackman eventually was who they come across, because they said, look, we need to get at least a couple names just so we can get some money. Because for those who don't know, Warner Brothers didn't produce this movie. The Salkinds did. So it's technically like it was what was called a negative pickup back in the day. Warner Brothers said, all right, here's the rights, go make the movie. When you deliver it, we'll give you some money for it. And we'll handle distribution. Like, that's basically how it worked. But so at the end of the day, the Salkinds were the ones who controlled everything. And Donner wasn't even their first choice. He was actually, because the original director they had, Guy Hamilton, didn't want to work in the UK because of his tax breaks. It would fuck up his taxes, so they had to come up with somebody else, and they just eventually landed on Richard Donner because I think it was Ilya's wife at the time had known him vicariously, and he had just done I was just about to say The Exorcist, The Omen.
The Omen.
And The Omen, of course, was a big hit for Fox. And so they're like, oh yeah, okay, so we got, Donner, the guy who did The Omen, we got Mario Puzo's writer on the script, we got, Marlon Brando, we got Gene Hackman, this is a go picture now. So then the search came to go find a Lois and a Superman. And their whole point was, and Donner agreed, is you got to find an unknown. And they looked every fucking place in the world. And the weird thing was Lynn Stallmaster, the casting director, the first person he mentioned was Christopher Reeve. And everybody kept saying, no. He's too scrawny. He's redheaded. He's not right. Well, eventually Donner got convinced because Lynn and Chris worked it out, and Chris came in and he had a big old sweater on, and Donner could finally see what Lynn was trying to say about Chris. He had it, whatever it was that he needed for Superman, he had it, and Clark, more importantly. And he's like, because that's what he was. He was this guy who looked like an Adonis, but he also had that gee golly shucks thing of the guy next door going for him. Right. And one thing I've heard everybody say about him, whether it's Robin Williams, Margot Kidder, Richard Donner, anybody who knew him, they all say the same thing about Christopher Reeve. He was Superman. He was Clark Kent. Like, that guy that when he's Superman, that's Christopher Reeve. Right. He's just being himself. He was one of the most guy next door people that you ever met, from what everybody had said. He was the nicest guy. He was the most polite guy, was another thing that everybody always said, is he never was rude with anybody.
I could see that.
Like, he was just very much so in that respect.
And he took the role very seriously.
Very fucking seriously.
Very seriously.
And he would even, like, that was one thing that, like, Margot Kidder would. Did I say Margot Robbie earlier? I meant Margot Kidder.
No, I think
I didn't notice it.
I didn't notice it.
I do that once in a while. Margot Kidder, like she would say, she'd get bored being hanging off the ceiling for like 12 hours at a time, and she'd be fucking around, goofing around, and being la-di-da-di-da-di, and Chris would be like, knock it off. Like, this is serious.
We're doing something here. Yeah, I remember they used to get in contentious.
They really did have and they were able to turn that camaraderie into their romance. And that's the thing, is a lot of people believe the first ones to say, I didn't think Margot Kidder is all that attractive. Granted, she's not what you would consider the traditional attractive person.
I think she's pretty hot in the first one.
For the most part, yeah.
No, she looks.
The thing is, it's her chemistry with Christopher Reeve, though.
It was just
their
sizzle
chemistry.
Man. Yeah. It works so well. And you can see it, like,
Tom knew he had it, and this is what the point I was getting to, is that scene with them together on the balcony, on the terrace. And that was the scene they also used for the screen test. And they said they watched the screen test, and Christopher jumped down and he said, "Good evening, Miss Lane." And he crossed his arms. And they said at that moment they knew that was the guy. Like, that was it. He's like, he did it. He didn't do it with a wink in his eye. He didn't do it with anything more than complete and utter, like, he was committed to it. And that whole scene was kind of Tom Mankiewicz's, like, his statement on this whole thing. Because you have, I stand for truth, justice, and the American way. And you have Lois Lane laughing at him and going, well, you'll be fighting every elected politician in this country. Basically. Yeah. And then you also have the panty bit and all that kind of stuff. But the whole thing is tied up at the end when Tom knew, and this is where Donner and him were on the same page, is when he puts his well, in the original script, it's kind of, they actually say something about it, but it's kind of like he originally kind of puts his cape around her. It's because she says something about how cold it is. But anyway, he does, and he goes, and he turns to her and he goes, she goes, so you fly like Peter Pan? And he goes, well, Peter Pan flew with children in a fairy tale. Basically, that was his way of saying, this is not a fairy tale.
Right.
This is the real thing. This is as real as you're going to get. Right. And people got to remember, when we saw Superman as kids, like, or even as, some adults that are in this audience tonight, I'm sure they'll have recollection of this. Like, you believe that fucking guy flew.
Oh, definitely. When you see him, like,
I was Superman.
It's like, yeah, he's Superman, man.
And that's where I don't think some of these kids get it when we say, like, no, Christopher Reeve is Superman. I don't give a shit what you say. George Reeves and 3 other guys before it and 3 other guys since, doesn't fucking matter. Christopher Reeve is capital I-S Superman.
Yep.
That's all there is to it.
He embodied him the most, more than anybody will. He lived the role. He lived the character. He lived the lifestyle. He was Superman. He was Superman through and through. Nobody will ever do it better. Nobody will ever do it better.
And I mean, even Annette Toole said, she'd come on part 3, not to jump ahead to part 3 already, but she's like, I did all my Clark scenes first, she said. And that was just me and Chris, right? Just me working with Chris, doing whatever. She said the first time I worked with him in the suit, it was completely different. Mm-hmm. He came on and he felt like he was 10 feet taller than he was before. And she goes, you do that thing just like in the movies. You start from the chest up because your eyes go right to that ass.
Yeah.
And she said she turned into a little kid all of a sudden. She's like, it's Superman. And you got to remember, this is only 5 years since he started playing the role.
Yeah. It wasn't very far
when that movie came out, and she still turned into a little kid at that moment.
Yeah.
That just tells you the power that he had as this role, right?
Like, in his presence,
stepped out, and it was fucking Superman. It was no longer Christopher Reeve. There was just Superman, right? And she said it was a totally different person. He had that aura, that essence. It was just like you were in awe of him. And you could tell, like, she had a hard time with it, but she could probably understand why Margot Kidder didn't have a hard time with it, because it was easier for her, right? Because she had to just ignore Clark. And then that was the thing. Kidder said, that's the trick. She goes, you just ignore Clark. He's your kid brother, right? Like, that's what she said. But Superman is that guy you have as your Prince Charming image. And I would turn into that little schoolgirl whenever I would talk to Superman, because that's what Lois would do. She would lose all of her, like, she is this strong woman and she's independent, but she's putty in Superman's hands, basically.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's all she knew. That was the trick.
Yep. Yeah. So that was, and she had it much easier than Annette O'Toole. And Annette O'Toole does a really great job.
She had to do the opposite, right? Like, she had to pretend she was obsessed with Clark.
Yeah.
Not Superman.
Yeah. And he, like, even when he turns, skipping ahead there, when he gets the kryptonite and he, like, sort of hitting on her, and she's just like, don't you gotta go? You saved the truck and the people. Yeah. So it's such a much different relationship. And you can tell it was Christopher Reeve. No offense to anybody. I love George Reeves. I love Henry Cavill. I love Dean Cain. Christopher Reeves is Superman. Always and forever. Always and forever. Always forever. And it's just a great movie. It's all around. And you, like, a lot of that stuff, like Tom mentioned, that we learned from those documentaries that they had. So it's so much fun to talk about these movies. Brando, what was it? I can't remember why that Brando left for the second one.
They didn't want to pay for him.
Yeah, they did. That's what they didn't want to pay for him. And so they cut all the scenes out. And then how did they get this? Like, they made a deal with the family or whatever to use it in a Donner cut or something, right?
That's Bryan Singer. Thank Bryan Singer for that, because he wanted to use him in Superman Returns. So in the deal with that, he got the Donner cut done after all these years. Something that nobody else has been able to do all this time. We've tried. Since the internet has been a thing, I remember being a part of boards and everybody campaigns trying to get the Donner cut to happen. And when we got that, that was a big win for us. Like, that was my equivalent to the Snyder cut.
Mm-hmm.
But, to me, it was like, holy shit, we're finally getting it.
I could see that. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I've heard people say. Greg even told me.
Granted,
he was like, yeah.
A third of those scenes, like I said, if you've seen the TV version, which that was the version I grew up with most of all these films, believe it or not. I think we talked about that before, but No, like there's a good chunk of that first half of the film I've never seen before. Nobody's ever seen before since the day it was put in a vault. And it was kind of it's like a totally different movie for about half of it. And then the last half is similar. And I mean, they're all similar things in it, but that was the problem, was once they shit canned Donner, Lester couldn't just reshoot those scenes. They had to rewrite them too.
Yeah.
So that's why all that shit changed. Plus they had to come up with a new way of, the stupid bomb in Paris shit to get the bad guys out and stuff.
Yeah. It's weird. But they're great movies, and they should have really kept Donner. But things broke down. The Salkinds were the Salkinds were crazy in firing Richard Donner. And like Tom said, the fact that Warner Brothers didn't try to step in, even though it was a Salkind production, didn't try to step in to do it, is beyond me still to this day. But at least
they did kind of in a sense that they
should have kept him.
They gave Donner a career. I don't think he made any movie outside of Warner Brothers for the rest of his life. I could be wrong, but
I was every movie that
he made after that was like Goonies, Lethal Weapon, all that stuff was all Warner Brothers movies.
Was that Bruce Willis movie? Was that Warner Brothers?
Which one was that?
With the Mos Def and Bruce Willis, where he's taking him.
I think so.
Was that Warner Brothers? I can't remember.
What is it, like six? What is it called?
6 blocks or something, or something like that, where he's taking him down the block and they're like shooting at him or whatever. I can't remember.
Well, and Brian, I don't think they could have. That's part of the problem. That's where I was thinking the Salkinds, they had control, unfortunately, so there was nothing they could do. And I mean, there was a lot of people who stood their ground. I mean, that's why. I mean, if now you want to move on to the third film, although I'd love to hear what Runner thought of the first 2 movies and the 2 versions, but we'll get to that. But that's why Margot Kidder is pretty much written out of the third film.
Yeah, she was the only one that really kind of.
Yeah, she's barely in it.
She stuck up for Donner, so it kind of. But go. What are some of your thoughts on the first 2 before we move into the third one and the fourth one?
So the first 2 films, they're not. They're not bad, but they're not my favorite comic book movies of all time. Like, I think the Spider-Man, Sam Raimi movies, those were my versions of Donner Superman to me. Like, I can watch the first 2 movies. I don't think I'll watch the Lester cut of 2 because it's not very good in my opinion. But the Donner cut of Superman 2 is way better.
It is. My opinion.
I can watch those first. I could watch the first Superman movie and the Donner cut for the second one because of Christopher Reeve, because he is great as Superman. He is really damn good. 3, which I know we'll get into. It has a fun charm to it, and Tom is kind of right. It is slightly better than the Lester cut of 2.
Yeah.
And
in hindsight, I think so.
And
even though Richard Lester directed that was one that started and finished as a Lester production. Like, it was
exactly
not a hodgepodge of shit. Yeah.
Exactly. That's why I think it worked a lot more. I mean, I didn't love it overall. I still think it was.
I think it gets overly bashed. I think, especially watching.
I mean, it's not the worst thing. It's not the worst.
But like
a masterpiece compared to 4. Oh my god, I could.
Well, that's not hard to argue. But basically, I look at it this way: there's a lot of stuff that people overlook in the third film that I think they don't give it credit for. Yes, is it the same tone as the other films? No. It definitely is not. It went a different direction. But at the same time, to me, it feels the most comic booky besides the second one.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? In a sense that you have your guest appearance of Richard Pryor being in it, which was kind of a thing. Even back then in the comics, they would have guest appearances by people all the time. Muhammad Ali was famously, of course, in a Superman story and stuff like that. So to have something like that or another character come in, that was always the thing, is you'd always get these new bad guys and characters and these new guys. Is Matthew Vaughn, or what the hell is his name? Robert Vaughn's character kind of a proto
Lex Luthor.
Same thing as Lex Luthor? Yes. Basically, and I was talking about this the other day on the A-rated B movies, in a lot of ways, if you look at it, a lot of what Lex Luthor became following those movies is based more on Robert Vaughn's character than it is what Gene Hackman did. Same thing with some of his what's his his hot chick and stuff like that, like her playing dumb became a common
really
trope.
Smart. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like that became a common trope of the villain chick and stuff like that going forward. And really, Robert Vaughn is kind of what Lex Luthor became down the road, especially like once you hit like Lois and Clark and stuff like that, when he became more of the philanthropist instead of the scientist kind of thing.
Yeah, the 80s John Byrne comic really did that to Lex Luthor, and I guess he might have been a little bit inspired by that. But like Superman 3 has some really great, like you said, comic book super scenes, like with the factory that's exploding and he's got to put out the acid, cool it down, with the freeze in the lake and bring it. That is a great scene. Very
Superman scene. And then also very like Superman. The whole, I mean, it should have been red kryptonite or whatever, but still, just the whole idea of them giving him a fucked up kryptonite and it made him evil.
Yeah, and like where he fights stuff is amazing.
It's one of the best special effects we ever had like that. And people, I mean, God, it's hard to believe that was like 5 years before Back to the Future 2.
Yeah.
Like that was the first time they convincingly had two people on screen at the same time. Is usually people would refer to Back to the Future 2. But I'm like, I don't know, Superman 3, they didn't skimp on the effects budget on that movie.
It looks really good. I mean, there's only a few scenes where you can tell it's really superposed.
But like there's a couple of shots you're like, wow, they actually like, and the body double they got in there for some of the shots too is really good.
Yeah, matches him, like it really does match him
really well. Like,
I mean, it works.
I use the one scene where he's laying on the conveyor belt as an example, because that's Christopher Reeve on the conveyor belt. They have his double from the chest down walk over and turn on the thing. You would never think in a million years that's not Christopher Reeve.
Yeah, it looks just like him.
Looks just like him, except for because you're not seeing the head. And they do a great job of making sure you never see his face throughout the whole thing. And they managed to do a lot of that without very little split screening. Like the only shots that are really split screen is when they first split apart, which is one of the junkier scenes.
Yeah.
But then when they step away from each other, that's one of the better shots. Like it looks seamless.
Yeah, like when they're standing there facing each other.
Yeah. And then from there on out, most of it is just the double. They just managed to cut it to where you don't realize it until near the end, and then like the choking bit is one of the worst.
Yeah, you see where like his shirt doesn't go around the arms when he's choking him. It's just but it is a great scene, and like I said, you get that scene, and like also you sort of get Brainiac in this movie. It's the closest thing we've got to Brainiac in live action with the computer.
It did give me a little bit of Brainiac vibes.
Yeah, and when the sister gets pulled in, that scene is still creepy and scary to this day.
It scared the shit out of me as a
kid. It's scary, right? It scares you when you see her. When you just imagine watching that as a kid running.
Not just that, when she comes out.
She like comes out. It's like it's creepy. It's still scary, and it's great seeing like him flying there to get to that, and fighting the rockets and stuff is a great scene. And the only real problems I have with Superman 3 is the comedy bits. I think the opening is overly long with a lot of the comedy with the guy that keeps having the bad day and getting tripped and all that.
The opening bit, when I saw that, I was like, oh, this could be a really fun movie.
I kind of like it actually, Greg, because it feels very Superman-y.
It does, but I think it goes too long, is what I think.
Maybe you're not wrong there. I mean, it's not as bad as when they show it on TV, because on TV they actually separate the opening credits from that scene.
Yeah.
And they literally have the opening credits playing over black space with just the Superman theme, and then it goes to that just so they can pad out the timing.
Yeah.
There's not as many deleted scenes for part 3 as there is the first two. But I mean, I don't hate it because I like just the little things they do. And then the TV version, it's even longer, but he saves a kid out of a tree, and some other bits that are cut out of the other version. It's not here, but I really, especially watching it recently, maybe it's because of the Man of Steel and all that kind of shit we've seen since. It really does have more of a wholesome. This feels like kind of a superhero, and you even have we got into again. Go watch our talk about it over on.
For the A-rated B movies, B-rated A movies over on Mead.
Because the other big question Script and I kind of brought up was, okay, is the fight in the junkyard, is that really just him fighting himself eternally, and I think we came to that conclusion. Yeah. So really, if you look at it, and this is what I was saying with Runner was agreeing with, is like you look at it, it's a much better film than the Lester version of Superman 2 because the stupidness is taken out of it. Even with even with the satellite, the supercomputer, some of the hacking shit is a little out there. But you know what? Even that stuff is at least explained better than Superman fucking being able to just rip his S off his chest all of a sudden for no reason. And have teleportation and levitation powers.
That was always a joke to me.
There's a lot of shit in the second film that just makes you go, huh?
It does, and I'm not saying that it's like I know it. I do think 3 is probably a better, well structured, put together film than 2. It's just like I grew up with 2 for so long, and so like I don't mind it, but
don't get me wrong. I love 2, but after seeing the Donner cut,
like it really blows it out of the water.
It does because it makes the Lester version look, and you can tell what's reshot. Like it looks horrible because it was through almost 2.5 years apart. Like you can tell, it's like, oh god, this is definitely shot at a different time, and the cast had a much different. They didn't like Lester, and you didn't even see it in the making of it. Yeah, and Margot Kidder, I almost did it there. See, Margot Kidder is the one who spoke out publicly about it, and that's why she got practically demoted to the beginning and the end of Superman 3. Which, at the end of the day, I'm not. To be honest, their romance was played out. I like the Lana Lang.
I do too. I do like.
Lana Lang was probably my favorite part of Superman 3.
I like the Brad stuff. I love all that stuff. I love how they tried to give Richard Pryor room to just kind of do Richard Pryor things.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna lie, and that's totally biased on the fact that I love Richard Pryor. Okay, I'll if it was any other comedian at that time, it may not have worked as well.
Yeah, I don't think it would.
But again, like it didn't flop at the box office. It only got a bad rep after, and I think people forgot how bad Supergirl was. The following year.
Oh, Supergirl! I still like to get that on a nice 4K.
Almost like that was a threat. It's like motherfuckers, it could be worse.
It could be Supergirl, man.
I'll show you.
I'll be honest with you. I was watching Superman 3 the other day. Was it 2 days ago? I enjoyed it. I hadn't seen part 3 in forever because I typically just watch the first 2, and I loved it. I enjoyed it. I had so much more fun with it than usual. I loved the bit like with the couple from the Daily Planet that goes and then they get the natural disaster and they try to sue Perry White for it. I love that scene. I love the guy who's in with the Leaning Tower of Pisa. His reactions to Superman moving it, straightening it, and then fixing it back. I love his reaction.
Is that true, Tyrell? I did not know that. The opening scene of Superman was originally 3 was shot in 3D.
Oh,
I did not know that.
That makes sense.
Huh.
Oh, wow.
It does kind of look like it when you think about it now.
And it was the 3D era. It was the only 3 movie in '83 that didn't get a 3D. I'll have to research that a little bit. I didn't know that.
That does still make me laugh. Because I was sitting there watching it because I loved Smallville, and until Smallville got a little crazy. But it just you think about that. You're seeing her like make goo eyes at Clark and all that, and you're thinking you're going to be his mom one day. Even though it's not the same guy, it's just
I love the bits with him and Ricky, like when they're bowling, and the whole bit with
love that.
Brad trying to impose himself as this father figure that he's not, and he's I love the line where she's like, "Oh God, it's not even noon yet, and he's already." He's already stoned to the gills or whatever. He's like, "Oh, he only had milk. I don't know if that's no, not him. Oh, Brad, yeah."
Yeah, I love that. I love when he's giving her the ring and he drops it and he comes in and he sees him on his knee and then Brad's like, "I know you can't." And he goes after him. I love that bit. That's so fun.
It all works out. See, that's where some of the things that I think were more. Like in this environment, I guess, in a more controlled environment, the Richard Lester stuff isn't as cringy or bad, if that makes sense.
It feels more comic book, like you said. It feels more like it's a comic book issue of Superman.
It kind of knows what it is compared to the Lester cut in 2.
Exactly, because again, the problem is that being a hodgepodge movie that they had to rejigger into this new film, because otherwise, and the reason is if he didn't film more than 50% of the movie, he was going to have to share credit with Richard Donner, and God forbid that happen, because of the way that shit went down with them guys. And that was another one where, because publicly Donner spoke out against the Salkinds, even though they were ready to bury the hatchet because, you know, they were happy he made them a bunch of money. They, as far as I was concerned, they jumped the gun on that. They should have really tried to negotiate with him, because he was more than willing to come back. He would have just been like, just make sure that motherfucker don't come back on the set, meaning Pierre Spangler, because that's the one he really had an issue with.
Yeah, that's the guy they brought in to like go between them, right?
No. Richard Lester was the go-between.
Oh yeah, that's right. Richard Lester was.
That was the even bigger fuck you, was because they chose him. And then Richard didn't even have and that was the thing that this is where I don't like Richard Lester. I mean, I normally wouldn't blame him, but he didn't have the fucking decency to even call Richard Donner and say, hey, look, this is what's happening. Because he played himself all nicey to him during the making of Superman 1. Because that's what he said. He's like, you know, look, I'm here just to be the bridge, man. He's like, you know, and being a director, as a director, even though I'm sure that's a red flag, it's still like, okay, if I can use this guy because he'll understand what I'm going through, he can at least convince these guys what's going on compared to me trying to deal with them directly. Even though he knew that this guy was probably waiting at any time to stab him in the back, he still looked at him as a friendish or friendly-ish person because of the both directors. But when this all happened, he's like, I have never heard from Richard Lester ever since.
Yeah.
That to me is some cold ass bullshit.
That is. And like
the least Richard could have done is been like, look, dude, just to let you know, this is what's going down.
He could have, yeah. Instead of backstabbing him. And like you, when you watch the stuff about the Donner cut, when he goes like, I didn't want to see none of the Richard Lester shot shit. Like Donner said, I don't want to see none of that.
No. He's never watched any of the sequels. He's never watched the Lester cut.
Yeah, he never watched any of that.
Because of how much of the Lester stuff is in the Donner cut, from what I know, he has never actually watched that in its completion.
Yeah, he even said that.
I think it's part of the problem with that, to be honest with you. If it wasn't for that, I think maybe he would have come in and if he would have got over himself for 5 minutes and watched the movie and go, okay, like, we got to cut that, we got to change that.
Yeah, you might have got rid of some of that. Yeah,
I think so. He did technically kill him in the Donner cut. Yes,
sort of. Yeah, I mean, he went to Thursday and stuff. But then he reverses it. So
technically, no, I guess.
Yeah, and I mean, like even if then, who knows? It's really. But yeah, it's I gotta say I did enjoy Superman 3 watching it again. I do love the. Go ahead.
Go ahead. No. Go ahead.
I was gonna say I do love the Smallville stuff. I've always liked that in Superman when he goes back to Smallville, because even though he says it in the beginning of the movie and they kind of plays it as a joke, like I'm a man of the sophisticated man of the city now or whatever, and I'm going to go back to Small. He really is, whether they like to believe it or laugh at it. And I always like that story of like, it's the fish out of water story, but it's gone back in reverse. And it's always funny to see that, like, they show him without his glasses off in his pictures, and like nobody still recognizes him as Superman. Well, I love that. I love that.
None of them are the people who played them in the original film.
Exactly. Too.
And that was the other thing I brought up is like, why are they having a reunion for 1965 and 1983? That makes no sense either, but whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, if you start to question, I'm not going to lie, you start to question any of these fucking movies, it starts falling apart. Even the first one in certain respects.
They do.
But at the end of the day, like Runner's right, this has a very, and then you brought it up too, and this is a very comic booky movie, and I think it gets overlooked.
Mm-hmm.
I think if some people maybe kind of looked at it with new eyes, they'd see it for what it is and maybe not be so harsh on it. Because it really doesn't make any huge mistakes. Like, I mean, as far as stepping out of, I mean, if it's just not your style, it's just not your style, right? I can get that. But like at this point, I think they should have been allowed to try something like this. And to me, how is it any different than any other franchise that does like what Marvel did several years later with like, you have like, for a while, that was kind of the thing that Marvel had up on everybody else was, Ant-Man was a caper film. Winter Soldier was like
Political
a conspiracy
thriller.
theory film, political thriller. You know, you had the different kind of movie genres within the genre. You know, so I didn't see a problem with that. For the same reason, like I saw after I saw Joker, and I'm like, you know what? This movie wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be, even though it is exactly what I thought it was going to be. Because at the end of the day, it's a very comic book thing to do. They used to do that shit all the time.
Right.
You know, clearly this story is inspired by Seven. Clearly this story is inspired by Silence of the Lambs or what have you. Like, or Temple of Doom or whatever, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, they even kind of made fun of that. That was why I brought up Temple of Doom, is because they kind of even make fun of that in Clerks, the animated series, which was used to be made back when Kevin Smith was brilliant. It is one of the most brilliant, because they actually have an episode that's kind of basically that, where it's like the last Starfighter and Temple of Doom rip off in the episode, and that's kind of the whole point, is they used to do this kind of shit all the time.
Yeah.
So for Superman to like, okay, this time we're gonna have fun. Like, there's nothing wrong with that, especially after the heavy-handedness of the second film, with the way that, you know, if you stop to think about the weight of those three Kryptonians and what they represented, you know, it's nice to just kind of have this. Yeah, sure, you know, Robert Vaughn's character's fucking with things, but it's not on a global level to a point at the same extent of,
he's just
like,
causing a little trouble, trying to get a little power.
Nothing
big.
I love Gus. I do.
Yeah,
it's one of Richard Pryor's better characters. I'll say it. I don't give a shit.
Superman. Me and him, we go way back.
I'm gonna say the one thing I didn't care about much in Superman 3. I didn't care much about Richard Pryor. Now, I don't hate Richard Pryor. I think he's fine. I think he's a good comedian. He was just one of the weaker parts to the movie, in my opinion.
That's fair, and I get it. If you're not into that aspect of it, I totally can understand that.
I don't know. It just didn't work. Like I think his humor works. Like, in general, I just didn't care for it in the third movie.
That's all right. That's fair.
Okay.
To me, it makes if it wasn't for that movie, we get Office Space and all this other stuff.
Yeah,
and I'm sorry, like, I love the bit where he's like, where Robert Vaughn's like, we'll never know who did this. He's so too cunning. He's so
I love it.
Only a complete imbecile.
He shows up in a vat.
I think it was a Ferrari, actually, but
Ferrari.
It's a $20,000 automobile. Is all dumb shit, can't even drive it.
I thought for a split second that Tom was gonna snap my fucking head off.
No, Richard Pryor is one of those where, like, I understand sometimes he's just not some people's cup of tea.
I get it. I like it. I'm with you.
Yeah, he has a very specific kind of humor. He doesn't really deviate too much from it. I mean, I'm not saying he can't do something original, but I mean, Richard Pryor basically has this same kind. It's just kind of his role that he plays in almost every movie. I mean, sometimes a little one way or the other, whether he's, you know, a good guy or bad guy. But that's the thing. He's really good at playing these on the edge characters. And that's why I think he fit in this movie. Because there's so many times in his life where Richard has played these questionable characters, but you still love them, right? Yeah. That's the thing about Gus, is he's questionable, but he only goes so far, right?
Yeah, like, he doesn't want to hurt or kill Superman like they do.
Or even really people, for all that matter. He just, you know, he's like, you even have that scene where he's like, he goes, you know, you always get what you want, and I don't think that's right. You know? You know, and then the same thing.
He just wants money and stuff.
Yeah, he just wants a little piece of the pie, you know?
Yeah.
He wants to build a computer. And I love the bit where he finally realizes, oh, my computer hit whiz and I didn't even know it.
Yeah.
And then when he builds this computer and he puts it all out on this different pieces of paper here and there that he has, and Robert Vaughn's like, well, what will it do? It'll do whatever I tell it to do.
I love it.
And it's very Brainiac in that sense, like you said, especially when it just figures out the weaknesses, and then it turns his sister into the monster and all that shit.
Yeah. All right. Before we get into Superman 2, I do see a couple super chats here, and it's different. Go ahead. I mean, Superman 4. I'm sorry.
I was going to say, not Superman 2. We went over that.
These are not quite, these super chats are not what we're talking about, but I do want to get them before so we can get into Superman 4 and then to our next picks, if that's okay with you guys. But first super chat they're both from Bronson Wright Wolf. Thank you both for these two $5 super chats. This first one says Ozzy Osbourne's picture from Trick or Treat is in Little Nicky's room. It's the same picture on that DVD cover of him and Gene Simmons together. I didn't know that. I haven't seen Little Nicky in forever. And then in the second super chat, he says, I've seen a couple pictures of Ozzy Osbourne and Tony Fields doing a photo shoot for Trick or Treat. They were holding Ozzy's album, The Ultimate Sin. Nice. Well, thank you, Bronson Wright Wolf, for both these super chats. I am excited for Trick or Treat coming out on 4K. We brought up that last week. So thank you once again for these super chats. I'll give you another video real quick, and we'll get back into our Superman talk. We'll just do this since we're talking superheroes. I figured since we was talking superheroes. All right.
Brilliant. It cracks me up that it's an Ewok and then it just switches to a fucking bear flying like a real one.
That was what was in the Hulk show.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like Runner in there trying to run interference. Be careful, Bryant. You're going to get him going.
Yeah, I was going to say.
What's the difference between killing Zod and 2 in Man of Steel? Easy. He waited too fucking long in Man of Steel. Too many fucking people died.
Yeah.
Like, at least in Superman 2, Superman's first concern is the fucking people. Right? He tries to get them away from the city, first and foremost, and then he can't do it, so he takes off. So because he knows they'll follow him.
Because they want him. Yes. Now, as for Superman 4, which I think this will probably be the one that we talk the least about, because it's probably the least liked Superman movie from Christopher Reeves.
It's something.
Listen,
I'm not gonna say I hate it.
The best thing I can say about Superman 4 is the transfer is at least decent.
They all look great.
The transfer looks pretty
Runner's
good.
right though. The Superman 4 looks the best of all five of the movies, but yeah,
they do.
Transfer wise,
yeah,
but that's just because it's the newer of them all. But yeah,
newer film stock and all that. They do great color grading too on it.
Man, I'm sorry. It's the only time I've seen the movie actually.
And, really?
Yeah, really. My God, I was just the movie is 90
Kill
minutes.
Superman.
The movie is 90 minutes long, and it almost feels like an hour longer than that.
Can you believe that there's almost like a half hour, 45 minutes of stuff that didn't make it into the movie?
Still stuff missing out of it.
Oh my God.
Because like the whole, I know we were talking a little bit before, but like, was it Lacey or whatever her name is in the movie?
Oh yeah,
Mariel Hemingway's character.
Yeah, the new
like the whole bit at the end is like 2 different bits cut together, right? Like that's the whole thing. Like there's a shit ton missing from the movie, and it is a hodgepodge mess. But as a kid, I didn't mind it. I actually had no problems with it as a kid,
dude. Yeah. What? Yeah, well, you just said her name. The one who
Mariel Hemingway Lacey or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, the part where she gets dragged into space and she's fine with it, that drove me insane.
Oh, yes. We all discovered that later on when we grew up, and we're like, what the fuck?
How does she live?
I was just sitting down watching the movie. I'm like kind of bored because I'm like, yeah, this is just a typical bad movie. And then that happens, and I'm like, what the fuck?
Okay, I'm going to show you guys something we watched the other night on Mead. And this a Price production is doing a bunch of this stuff. You may have seen he was the guy who did the couple of scenes with Supergirl meeting Superman, Christopher Reeve's Superman meeting what's her face from Supergirl?
Oh yeah. I can't think of her name. I've met her in real life too.
Yeah. Anyway, he's been doing this stuff for Superman 4, so I think he's working on like an ultimate cut. But here he fixed the Lacey in space and the demise of Nuclear Man. Yeah, moving the moon and the sun's like only a couple hundred miles away from Earth. So he doesn't even get into space in this version, is what he fixed first of all.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
And he actually makes it dark like it should be. So all this stuff was happening in space in the other version. He just superimposed them over Metropolis.
Yeah.
That's added. He'd added that in there.
Yeah.
So I think he just lands on the ground in the other version or whatever, but like, yeah. He takes him into space. Just dumps him in a wormhole.
I gotta be honest, that is better. That is better.
Oh, that's way better. Holy shit.
And that's where it cuts into the other version.
Yeah, I gotta admit that is better.
Yeah,
Damn.
Price Production. He's done a lot of that stuff. I suggest checking him out. So hopefully he does like Helen Slater. Thank you, Steven. We just mentioned her earlier too.
That's dope. That's actually so much better, and the effects even look better.
It's like I said, there's stuff about Superman 4 I like. I do like Nuclear Man because I just think it's so goofy, and I love the bad Lex Luthor dub over his voice. I think their fight is fun.
I'm sad that we missed Bizarro Superman. Though.
Yes,
that's
I'm
in the
sad.
deleted scenes.
Yes, I'm sad we missed Bizarro Superman.
Honestly, Bizarro would have been better than.
Well, have you watched the deleted scenes, Runner? It's not exactly Bizarro. But it's really fucking close.
It's essentially him.
It's really fucking close.
He's the first Nuclear Man.
Like, yeah, because the whole is Gene Hackman makes a version of Nuclear Man, but he's dumb. It's basically like Bizarro's Superman. He's like, I need more power. You know, like, so he's like, I'll send him to the sun. And so, like, he gets destroyed, and so they make another Nuclear Man, and that's what we get in the movie. Mm-hmm. And it was obviously planned from the start that he was going to sound like Gene Hackman. I'm sure the actor just had a shit voice or couldn't really act.
Wasn't he foreign?
I think that could be it, too, because you could tell from the deleted scenes that, like, he's actually just lip-syncing to pre-recorded dialogue, because you could hear it coming through the speakers. Like it's coming through the speakers.
Yeah,
on
when
the
I
set.
say action, you just
no. There's a sound you can hear. Like everybody's talking and they're normal. Then all of a sudden, every line for Nuclear Man comes from out here. It's like when you're watching a scene of like Chucky or Megan from behind the scenes, and you can hear the pre-recorded dialogue kick in.
Yeah,
because you get like it just has that certain tone to it where it sounds like it's on a speaker somewhere offset.
Yep.
Because they just redub over it at the end, but like, so it's like clearly that was the plan from the start. Because they even have he's got my voice, or you have my voice. See,
yeah, you have my voice. But I do love Nuclear Man. I do love their fight. I do actually like what's his name as Lex's nephew. Is it his nephew?
Yeah, Lenny.
Yeah. Lenny, I like him. I think he's funny in that role. But that's like, is what it is there. So
yeah, I mean, the biggest problem with part 4 at the end of the day is that they break one of the golden rules of superhero stories. Tom Mankiewicz trying to warn Christopher Reeve. I'm sure several people at DC tried to warn Christopher Reeve, because Christopher Reeve, this was kind of his baby.
Yeah, this was his story.
I feel bad that at the end of the day that it didn't really turn out the way he had hoped. There was money embezzlement involved with Canon. I mean, the movie was getting slashed left and right as far as its budget. Like, there's people who think that maybe at most like $5 to $10 million at the most was put into this movie, even though it has like a $30 million budget or something like that. That they report. That's not true. I feel worse for him, but he made the mistake of breaking one golden rule, is that you never have Superman deal with things like nuclear war.
Yeah.
Or a war in general, right? Because the problem with that is it's disrespectful in a lot of ways, because Superman could go in and end the Vietnam War in one fell swoop, right? Like they even point that out with Watchmen and Dr. Manhattan, right?
Yep.
Like the Vietnam War went way different in that version of the story.
Yeah. Yeah, he just was
just
Dr.
little
Manhattan.
things like
Boom,
that.
boom, boom.
And kind of the point of the movie is Superman coming to that conclusion is that he can't really do that. No matter what he does or tries, it's not going to make a difference, or it just isn't really something the superhero should do. Because it's kind of a dictatorship kind of thing. At the same, there's a whole lot of shit that goes into it.
Yeah, and that kid is so fucking annoying too.
Yeah, the kid that did the right.
All he said was that Superman is like, shut up.
Yeah, Ricky's not Ricky, but Ricky was the one from 3.
I can't remember.
Or is it Ricky? No, Ricky is that the one from 4? I can't remember.
No, Ricky's from 3. I don't remember the kid's name.
I don't remember.
Ronnie,
I just Ricky, know Nikki, Phil. Who gives a shit? The kids are annoying.
When you have Superman basically coming into the UN and saying like, effective immediately, I'm getting rid of all nuclear weapons on the planet. It's like, well, now you're just a dictator.
That's a kind of a Frank Miller Superman move right there.
Yeah, and I don't like Frank Miller's Superman. I like Frank Miller's Batman. I just don't like his version of Superman.
But like I said, part of this point of the story is Superman realizing, oh, this is why I can't do this shit. Mm-hmm. But that's the one mistake. The one big mistake the movie makes at the end of the day is that it just broke that golden rule of things you don't do with superheroes because there's a distastefulness to it, right?
Yeah.
It's just there's a whole lot that goes into it. The story though overall is decent. I really want to. Now I know it's weird hearing me say that. The reason I say that is because I think there's a better movie here that we never got to see. Right. I think between all the deleted scenes and what might have been like maybe what this guy is putting together, we'll finally kind of get to see what Christopher Reeve had in mind. Mm-hmm. It's never going to fix the nuclear missile aspect of the film, but it will maybe help it flow better and make more sense.
Yeah, tell a bit of a better story. As best it can. I'd like to see it. But yeah, as part of 4 looks great. The movie, I know Tyrell said he likes it. He thinks it's very comic booky, but
it does have a lot of the comic book elements to it.
It does. I like certain bits of it. Like I said, I do like Nuclear Man. I do like their fights. I do like the Lois when she comes to his apartment and like she sort of knows still. I like Lenny. I hated the fucking kid. I hated the nuclear stuff.
What I do like is the ending too. The ending where Perry White buys out all the stock.
Yeah, I like that.
Where the Daily Planet. I love that.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that was actually kind of the best part.
Yeah,
he looks like my dad when he used to go to the bank to ask for a loan.
Nice. All right, guys.
And you can tell there is like this familial thing with like the main crew, right? Like
you can tell they're like still like really good.
Yeah, they really work well together. Margot Kidder, even though she's a bit worse for wear after some of her worst drug use and stuff like that.
What are you talking about?
Yeah, exactly. Like she's looking a little ragged, but like it's still the chemistry is still there, especially between her, Jimmy, and Clark and Perry White. Like those guys all still have their chemistry going, and it works in that respect. I think there's a better movie here at the end of the day. I blame Cannon. I really do.
Yeah,
I blame Cannon. They had the right intentions on Christopher Reeve and certain other people's parts of what they wanted to do with this film. They wanted to take it back a bit more to the feeling of the first film. They made some of the same mistakes that some modern films make. I think there's no getting over that. But at the end of the day, I feel like, again, like the third film, it's probably overly shat on more than it should be.
Yeah. I mean, granted, it's not a great movie, but it's not as bad as I think, like you said, people have. But it is what it is. But I'm glad to have all 4 Superman movies. I like the 4K set. Like I said, like Tom said, if you have the other Blu-ray set, that might be better suited for you because it's got all those special features and stuff. Who knows?
If all you're worried about is the movies, though, like these scans for at least 2, 3, 4, and 5, or 2, 3, 4 are worth it. The first film, though,
It's all right, but there's a better scan.
I have a feeling they're going to turn around and they're going to re-release it as an extended cut on the 4K version eventually.
I have a feeling they're going to do that too.
Probably for the anniversary, which is in what, a few years here?
Yeah. It's right now. This is the 85th anniversary of Superman.
85th, but I mean for the movie it's 78.
It was the 40th anniversary when they released it the first time, so it's only been 2 years.
Well, we're a couple years away from the 50th anniversary.
Yeah, probably then. All right. Before we get into the final picks of the night and close it all out, we do have 2 more super chats. So let's read them, and then we'll get on
Oh,
to
they did fuck up one shot at the end of
go
the
ahead.
Richard Donner cut of part 2. Remember, you noticed it too, Greg.
Yeah, he was
for some reason they fucked it up, but they'll never fix it now. But it doesn't matter because it's the same shot in the end of every movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, literally.
Where he flies
And
out.
for some reason, it's all skewed out of skew at the last shot of the
Yeah, it
Donner
didn't
cut.
look right.
Don't know why.
All right, but I'm going to give these 2 super chats, and then we'll move on to the final picks. So we have another one from Bronson Wright Wolf for $5. Thank you so very much, Bronson. Seriously, for all these super chats. He says, "I like Lou Ferrigno as an Incredible Hulk. I enjoyed the death of the Incredible Hulk. Thanks for sharing that clip with me." Well, no problem. I'm glad you liked it. I liked the Incredible Hulk too. I think the death of the Incredible Hulk is all right. It's not too bad.
Needs a better release.
It does. It definitely needs a better release. So since you gave us that, let's see, what can I use here?
All the Hulk movies need a new release.
Definitely,
actually,
definitely.
And I'm talking about the Lou Ferrigno ones. Yeah, the trial, the return, and the death all need a. They've never been on Blu-ray.
Yeah, they all need a Blu-ray. Maybe one day, as long as they ain't the people that done the Alf movie. Ugh.
Let me flip this up, convert switch. That'll actually kind of lead into our other stuff here, actually.
All right. Thank you, Bronson. I'll give you this one now.
Next on USA,
up all night.
All night.
Because speaking of bad transfers and Superman, I suppose it's a good segue, isn't it?
Well, hold on. I do have this one more. Speaking of Superman, from Ace Hanlon for $2.
Oh.
He says, "Bought Superman 1 and 2 on CED video disc yesterday." Oh, okay.
Oh,
cool.
Nice.
That's awesome,
nice
bro.
To just have as
yeah.
I'm sure they're not very good shape as far as viewing pleasure, but
yeah, but that's cool that you got this. I mean, dude, Superman 1 and 2, man, you can't go wrong. But thank you once again, Ace Hanlon, for the $2 super chat. And I'll give you a quick one so we can get to Tom here so we can get it done.
Fine.
Yes, we'll just go with Leanna quickly.
I know what you're doing when you're watching my movies. Just how many calories do you think that burns?
Not enough. Not enough.
Not enough.
Not enough.
Yes. And good night, Brian Barr. Thank you for hanging with us this evening. But yeah, we'll go to you, Tom. What do you got for your final pick?
All right. Well, speaking of Superman and remasters and being a disappointment, this one is even a bigger disappointment yet. I managed. I wasn't sure I wasn't gonna. I thought about canceling it. There's a reason I didn't, but that's gonna be another show altogether. So yeah, I didn't actually watch all these. Full disclosure, because it's not because I don't like them. I love them. They're great. But this looks like shit. And considering the treatment that these have gotten over the years, the upconvert crap that people have bought on Blu-ray over the years, Warner should be ashamed of themselves, and I hope they fix it. Because they have done a scrub job on this, and this is a new version of DNR. This is what I've been trying to tell people about. It doesn't give you the waxy shit like they used to. But it smudges everything, and you can really see it when there's a lot of movement or a lot of what should be grain, and it isn't grain because it just looks like wavy gravy in your picture, and you're like, what the fuck is that? It's like these weird elements that shouldn't be there. This is chock full of that kind of shit. They just scrub the fuck out of it. There's no scratches in it anymore and all that shit, but it has no definition whatsoever.
Yeah, I heard it was really bad.
Which sucks because the color is so much better than the ones that we got on DVD that are actually in that box set that you guys have as well.
Mm-hmm.
But those are the 480p scans, and they have some edge enhancement on it. So it's like a take your pick, your poison at this point. It doesn't have all the crap noise reduction on it, but it also has noise edge enhancement on it. So it's kind of and plus it's a lower quality. And the colors aren't as good because it's from an old ass scan. So
Tyrell couldn't see what it was. It's the Fleischer Superman cartoon.
Fleischer Superman set.
Yeah.
So we get a new special feature in here, and this is where we actually get a look at what it should look like. Because they actually have some of the raw scans in that new featurette, and they look great. It's like, why couldn't we get those? In fact, this is bullshit. It should be a 4K anyway.
Yeah. If anything, those should be. I mean,
these were some of the most expensive cartoons produced at this time. In fact, they were the most expensive cartoons produced at this time. Because they went to Fleischer and they're like, we want you to make us a Superman cartoon. And he didn't want to do it. And so he's like, all right, I'll say we'll do it, but we want this much per episode. And then he said some ungodly amount. So he was spending more on these than Disney was spending on their shit at the time. Yep. And you can see it. The quality is there. Like, this is some of the finest animation you'll ever see. In fact, Batman the Animated Series is based on this type of animation. I mean, it kind of set the gold standard for a long time.
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, it's just sad that it got this treatment. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say there's like, I don't know if you've ever seen it. It was on YouTube. I can't remember the name of it, but it's done in the style of the Fleischer cartoons. It's a Superman thing. John Haymes Newton, who played Superboy in the first season of Superboy, that provides the voice of Superman. It's done in the Fleischer style, and he fights Bizarro. It's a really great cartoon. You should check it out. That's what it reminded me of when you brought up how the Batman the Animated Series was based off of this. But yes, continue with because I heard Bill Hunt say this was a horrible thing, so I was like, no, I just won't buy it because
I can't recommend it.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of people mad at it. So
because you're almost better off just hanging on to your. It's already in the DVD collection, or it's on the Blu-ray collection you got in your hands.
Yeah, and there's even some of the cartoons on the Blu-ray disc on this 4K set.
That's what I'm saying. They're all there.
All
17 of them are there. They're
Yeah.
just spread out among the first couple of movies is all.
Yeah.
So like the first 8, I think, are on the theatrical cut, or they're over Superman 2.
I think they're on Superman 2 and the Donner cut.
Either one or the other. Yeah, it's like one way or the other. Either or, they're all there. But those are the older 2005 scans.
Yeah.
In 480p. They didn't do anything to it because I don't think the original negatives exist anymore for these, because these are technically public domain. But Warner's, as far as I know, had the best known versions that exist, and their scans for that DVD were great. And I'm assuming they're the same versions they use the same film stock they had for this. But whatever they did, they scrubbed everything out of it. Like, I should have gotten some screenshots for you guys just so you could see, but. And to some people, they're not going to care. They're not going to notice. To them, this is going to look better than the DVD. And in certain respects, like the colors and certain like that, things like that, yeah, they are better than the old DVD. And if you're somebody who hates grain and doesn't want like specks and dirt and all this other shit all over the place, okay, I can understand that. But at the end of the day, you're still taking away resolution from this. Like, there's a lot of soft elements on this. Like, it looks really bad.
Yeah,
I'm unimpressed. I hate saying much more than that about it at this time. Hopefully we get an update soon and Warner Brothers will do something about it, because
hopefully
this is just sad. Because it was weird, because I guess they took it down for order for a little while on Amazon, but now it's back up.
Yeah, so what I heard. I heard it was taken down, then now it's back up. Yeah.
So yeah, it has a new special feature on it though. Max Fleischer Superman Speeding Towards Tomorrow, which just has, I don't even know who they are, if they're modern comic book guys or animators or what, but they're all just talking about it, which is fine. And then you got First Flight, which actually has a bunch of the classic DC people and other people involved with the Superman box set talking about it at that point. That's a better one. And then for some reason, as I mentioned before, and this is why it makes no sense to me why they didn't try a little harder to carry over some of these other features on that other bonus disc. They've got the Man, the Myth, the Superman on here. So one of those bonus features from the Superman box set is on here.
Oh, man.
So one of them made their way off there. So I don't know what the fuck Warner Brothers is doing, but what I see a problem. I shouldn't have had to buy these separately anyway in the first place.
Yeah, they should have had them right in there with that.
This should be a part of this.
Yeah.
As should Superman Returns. As should every goddamn other thing they can get their hands on aside from full runs of TV shows.
Yeah.
This should be the definitive box set for the Richard Donner / Christopher Reeve Superman films. And it's not.
It's sadly no.
It's
sadly,
a downgrade from the old one, in a way, outside of the picture quality. It's sad. And sound quality, if you count the Dolby Atmos, but yeah.
Yeah.
And they do actually have, for the first time, the original theatrical version since the first DVD releases.
Yeah.
Of the sound, I mean.
Yeah. Which is crazy. And you never know. The Warner Brothers will double dip us here soon.
Oh, they will.
Said. They will. They'll give us the extended cuts in 4K. Like, oh, well, here you go now.
I have a feeling it'll just be another version of the first movie by itself. It'll be the extended cut, the 2-hour, 40-some minute cut on 4K, I bet. And that'll come from the new scan. You watch.
Yep. Because we all heard there was a new scan, but they didn't give it to us. So...
Because the scan for this one's quite a few years old already, and it does have some issues. It doesn't look the greatest. It is from the negative, but you can see compared to how good 2, 3, and 4 look. Like, they could have got a little bit better scan out of this, considering it's been that many years since they've done it. I think this is from 2017 or 18 was the scan that they did for Superman.
Yep. This is true.
They should scan it in like 6 or 8K anyway. Just so they can future-proof it, because I doubt they did this for this one here.
Yeah, they should.
And they should scan everything, not just the movie, like all of it. And that's where I'm hoping they will for the Donner, like a Donner cut.
I love when they get the original negative and they scan it and they find like a longer cut of the film that they didn't know existed. I love when they find stuff like that. But they should definitely do what you said, Tom. Any final words on the Fleischer cartoons?
I can't recommend it right now. Hopefully they fix it.
All right. Runner?
It's all crammed on one disc, too.
Yeah. Oh, is it all on one disc?
Yep.
Oh, really?
Ooh, that's even worse.
Yeah, all two, and it's only 2.5, or not quite 2.5 hours worth of cartoons, but that ain't the point. There's other special features on here.
The documentaries, too, yeah.
There's no reason they shouldn't have let this breathe over 2 discs, or at least on 4K. It could have been.
Yeah.
This could have looked amazing on 4K if they'd have had 4K scans like we heard they did.
Well, that sucks. All right. Don't buy the Fleischer cartoons, guys.
And I think they did, because you can tell the uptick in the color. That's one thing I will give it. Like, because I went and watched the older versions that are on the Blu-ray discs that you guys have in the set too.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, there's a huge uptick in the color clarity of that. Like the dinosaur, for instance, looks a whole like brighter shade of green than he does in the old scans, but that's at the sacrifice of clarity, basically. It's like at the end of the day, they really aren't looking that much better than the DVD scans. So
well, we'll not
keep
be
you
buying that
updated if there's more to hear, though.
Definitely, and I will not be buying that one. So we'll see what happens. Runner, what do you got first? What's your last pick of the night?
All right, my last pick is a comic book movie. It is probably one of the most underrated comic book movies ever made, and sadly, it sounds like we won't get a sequel to this, which it absolutely deserves one as far as I'm concerned, and that is Dread. I've shown the 4K.
I am the law.
I'm the better Dread.
I do like the cover art, though.
I know that's why I bought it.
Does it have the 3D version in still, or did they actually take that off? Oh yeah, I was gonna say.
Yeah, in the back it says Green Lantern.
Let me see that steelbook again, because I'm wondering if that's the one I got for Andre. Let me see that again. Yeah, that's the same one I got, Andre.
Yeah, they Best Buy re-released it. I saw it online,
cool.
and yeah, I was like, because I wanted. You know, they also.
It's a hell of a 3D movie, though. That's the only reason I haven't bought the 4K for myself yet.
No, but I have another 4K version that I bought on Amazon. It's just the normal, like, standard case, but that one's kind of lame compared to the Steelbook. I mean, I like the poster, but, like, or the poster art or whatever, the poster of him like standing on top of the building and stuff. But
it's all right. Andre usually makes his own covers, and this is the weird thing because he's not a big steelbook person or anything like that. But when he saw that one, he's like, "Will you please get this for me?" I'm like, "Yes, I think I can get
that." That's great. No, but I remember when was it Best Buy had these out of stock. I'm like, damn it, like I wanted that, and then they restocked it. I was like, oh, I'm going to Best Buy right now.
Nice. I might have. Well, I don't get to go there, but that I do like the Dredd movie, and I do like the.
And by the way,
learn Judge Dredd. I love that one. I love them both, but they're both vastly different.
I've seen parts of the Stallone movie, but not the whole thing. I love Stallone, but I don't know if I'd like that one as much as the Carl Urban one.
You probably wouldn't.
Yeah,
but I love it.
I love Stallone. You know that.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. It's just, I mean, like, you know, as much as I love Stallone, it's just like Carl Urban just fucking like he is Dredd in this movie. Like he's like the superior like version in my opinion.
Yeah, he's much more closer to the actual comic book, and I give it to him because he actually kept the helmet on the whole movie.
Oh yeah, exactly.
I mean, when they always say, "Oh, you can't get an actor to cover his face up the whole movie," watch Dredd.
Bullshit.
People. It's not that hard. It's you all just the narcissistic vanity people, but you're actors. I get it.
See, that's one of the problems the MCU kept having lately is like almost all the actors like just kept taking their helmets or masks off, and it's like, Jesus Christ, stop doing that. Like, you know, Tobey Maguire didn't even do that shit a whole lot. Not that I remember.
So mostly he loses his mask at the end.
Well, yeah, no, it's mostly that he gets it ripped off or whatever. Like that's really how he like loses his mask. He doesn't like take it off every 5 seconds like Tom Holland does.
Yeah, but Dredd is a fun movie. I do like the whole, you know, sort of just going to the top of the building and getting to her. It's not bad.
Yeah, it's a damn good movie, and the movie's like 90 minutes long.
Yeah, it's nice and tight.
It's nice and tight,
like a tiger.
And speaking of Carl Urban, what are your guys' thoughts of him possibly being cast as Johnny Cage in Mortal Kombat 2?
We'll see. I wouldn't have chosen him as Johnny Cage. I don't see him as the movie star type guy.
No, I remember. Was it one of the producers like confirmed that they were like in talks with him or something like a few weeks ago, and I made a tweet out there, and I'm like, listen, as much as I like Carl Urban as an actor, there's nothing about him that screams Johnny Cage. I would have picked a way better actor. I would have went with Glenn Powell. He would have been a lot better. If you don't know who that is, that's Hangman and Top Gun Maverick. Like he would have been a good Johnny Cage, and he probably wouldn't have been as expensive since he's really just starting to get back. Like, because a lot of fans are like, oh, Chris Pratt or Ryan Reynolds, and I'm like, those two would be great as Johnny Cage.
But they'd never do it. They're too big.
Exactly, they're too big. Those are two big names. They're expensive as hell. If you got Ryan Reynolds like back in like maybe around the time when he did fucking oh god, what was that movie where he was fat in the beginning? I forgot what that movie was called.
Ryan Reynolds?
Yeah, Anna Faris.
Oh, it was shit.
Tom brought it on last.
Yeah,
I didn't bring it on, but I brought on the movie that I say that it's a remake of.
Just Friends. That's
Just Friends. Yes.
Yeah.
If you got,
because I said it's a remake of Don't Tell Her It's Me. If you really look at it.
Yeah.
If you got Ryan Reynolds, maybe around that time, because he, believe it or not, I think he did Just Friends like after he did. I think that came out after he did that third Blade movie. He
wasn't very famous back then.
I know. I'm saying like you could have gotten him to play Johnny Cage maybe around that time when he wasn't as huge of a name. You know what I mean?
Yeah. but
he would have done a good job. Same with Chris Pratt. Chris Pratt would have been awesome as Johnny Cage.
Yeah, but now they're too famous, so
I know. Yeah, especially Chris Pratt. I feel like now
you'll just have to see what they do with him in the.
And I like Carl Urban. It's
movie.
just like, why would you pick him as Johnny Cage? I don't get it. You could pick a better actor than that.
But any other words on Dredd?
Good movie, really good movie. I remember a lot of people saying like this is one of the most underrated comic book movies, and then I watched it and I'm like, holy shit, yeah, this is so much better.
Yeah, just too bad the people behind it can't get their fucking shit together.
Yeah,
I know, that's sad.
They are the problem.
Mm-hmm. And they were like going to even turn it into a TV show at one point in time.
Yeah, and then they were going to do a 2000 AD show, and that never went anywhere either.
Yeah, they just can't get their shit right. All right.
In the bag.
Exactly. I guess we're on to me for my final pick of the evening.
Yeah, finally. Let's get out of here.
All right. So my final pick, as long as my internet holds up, because I noticed it was glitching there. Never give up, never surrender. I took a trip on Galaxy Quest.
We need that in 4K.
Yes, we do. My favorite Star Trek movie that's not Star Trek.
I have one damn job on this ship.
And I'm going to do it. It's such a good movie. I love this movie. And Sigourney Weaver is so pretty damn hot.
Adorable.
Look, they're helping the hurt one. Oh my god!
Yeah, I'm gonna die. You're not gonna die.
I know. I love it. She's like, let's get out of here before those guys kill Guy.
God, I haven't seen this in so long, but I still remember most of the quotes. It's a classic indeed. It needs a 4K back.
It definitely does. It's such a damn good movie by Lars Hammer. Oh, dude, when he delivers that line, because you're waiting the whole movie, seriously, because he refuses to say it, and he's like, you can tell, like he's really got that, like, I've been Spock for so many years. I don't want to say live long and prosper or whatever. And then when that guy dies, and he says, by Lars Hammer, you shall be avenged. Man, that like gives me goosebumps still thinking about that. But it is such a good movie. It plays so well to the Star Trek tropes, and it's perfect. It's a perfect movie. Yeah,
I mean, all around. I mean, and just a well done movie, perfectly timed. I think for everybody who was in it, and at the time of, it was just far enough out from Star Trek fan. Like we had just come off of what I would call oversaturation of Star Trek.
Yeah, with the Generation movies.
Generation movies, DS9 and Voyager all going on at the same time, I think it was.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe it was Enterprise and Voyager going on at the same time, plus the TNG movies. Like, it was all, kind of a hodgepodge of things happening at once. And that's where I kind of fell out, because I'm like, this is just too much. You went from having 3 whole seasons to consume of the TOS series and the animated series at most, plus whatever TNG had done to that point, to all of a sudden there's a bunch of new shows and movies and crap, and it's like, ugh.
Yeah,
I can't. It's too much for me at once. It's like overload. But like, yeah, and I think Galaxy Quest was a good release of that, because you kind of had this whole thing that, and I'm sure, what's sad is it almost, there was a part of me at the time that wished they had just gotten the Star Trek cast to play themselves.
That would have been really cool. It really would. It would have been interesting if they actually did the sequel and had like the Star Trek people out there. Yeah, that would have been. It works. It's a great movie. And it's funny just thinking about this. I just realized, speaking of which, with Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey, they thanked William Shatner at the end of Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey. It says special thanks to William Shatner in the end of the credits.
Well, probably because they had to getting the rights for that scene. Yeah, they may have had to get his sign off on it or something. Who knows?
Tim Allen does do a great job as like a combination of like William Shatner and this like captain who's like, that's where you live. Yeah. But even though William Shatner's like kind of doesn't want to talk about Star Trek so much anymore, but he's got that, Tim Allen's got that, like he's the guy. He's like, everybody lives in his shadow because he's the one that everybody loves and wants to talk to and stuff. It's just such a good movie. And the alien people, I love what's his name? Oh, what is his name? He's from Monk, the TV show Monk and Wings.
Tony Shalhoub.
Tony Shalhoub. and that girl, they start making out. That he's like, "Oh, come on, guys! Oh, that's just wrong." And they start making out. I love that scene, and he's so great in that role, like taking on the tech sergeant. He's like,
he's just all like chill the whole time. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like when they come in, they first see the aliens and everybody, they just all start screaming, and then he shows up afterward, and he's like, "What's wrong with you guys?" He's just all like chill throughout the whole movie. Yeah. It's such a good movie.
You know, believe it or not, I think I started watching it like a few weeks ago, and I only saw like the beginning of it. I'll watch the rest of it at some point.
You gotta watch it all the way through, Runner. It is.
I know.
Especially if you're like a Star Trek. Well, I doubt you're a Star Trek fan or seen most of it.
I'm not, but it's one I'll watch, and I feel like I'll enjoy it even if I'm not a Trek. I mean, go ahead. Do you think I'd like it if I'm not like too into Star Trek?
Oh yeah, definitely.
You don't have to like Star Trek to get it. It's its own thing.
No,
so.
It's got like its own space. It's like the whole cast.
As long as you just kind of get the concept of what Star Trek kind of was, and the idea that these guys had kind of made a living off of going to conventions. Like that's the only thing that really makes it Star Trek-y. Yeah, is like I said, you really could have just replaced it with the cast of Star Trek, and it would have worked. Yeah. Right, like William Shatner could have played himself, and so on and so forth. Like it could have worked on that level as like a meta movie. But it still works as it's its own thing, just with Tim Allen and Sigourney Weaver and all that kind of stuff too. Yeah. So yeah,
and it does. I mean, you don't, and it like really plays on like the fanboys and stuff. You know, like concept with the conventions and stuff.
That's
you really
get the whole setup is like they think that this is like a reenactment thing that's being put on by these like overzealous fans, and then they finally realize, oh shit, this is real.
Yeah, we're in space fighting an intergalactic war.
Because they realize that these aliens have been seeing their broadcasts all these years, thinking they're actual documentation of what they were doing. They didn't understand the concept of a TV show. The historical documents.
I think that's about where I stopped, was when they like get to space and like real life and everything. Not that I didn't like it. I just think I had something coming up that day, and I just.
But no, that's kind of where the movie kicks into second gear, especially when they finally realize, oh shit, this is for real.
Yeah. That's about
and it's like real life and death situation, and all of a sudden, you know, these people are getting killed and stuff. So yeah.
Well, what's your name? They didn't even give me a name.
How do you know you're not the comic relief?
Because I died. No, I don't remember what he said there, but like, yeah.
He's like, you really think so? That's what
I think so?
But I do at some point. I mean, I do have more time now that the semester's all over, and I'm in some
Sam Rockwell's great in it, and
Sam Rockwell's great in almost anything he's in. He's like the best part in Iron Man 2.
Sam Rockwell is just like, he nails it. You know, Alan Rickman, Sigourney Weaver, Tim Allen, like the whole cast gels together. Like,
that cast is incredible.
Justin Long's good in it too.
Yeah, Justin Long. I love his character. He's like, I know that, you know, it's a TV show, and I'm not an absolute mental case. It's all real, Justin. It's
that's
all
what's
real.
Cool is when they actually have that. Well, that's one of the pieces of the movie that is really enduring, I think, to the fans, is when they realize this shit's for real. They don't get this crap. They don't understand it. So what do? They go to the two biggest nerds to help them.
Because he's got the communicator.
Yeah, because he understands. Because then he helps them, you know, because then they understand the shit that they don't. But like, there's always this. There's just such great stuff in it, and just the whole concept was really. And I'm kind of glad they never did do a sequel in hindsight. Me too. I'm really scared about this series they're talking about doing now.
Mm-hmm.
But because without Alan Rickman, I don't think
you should not do it without Alan Rickman. Not one bit, because he really sold that character. It's like doing Star Trek without Spock.
It really just wouldn't work. It's best left as a one and done thing, I think. I hope that maybe this writer, and in a weird way, I kind of hope this writer's strike kills the because I don't think any good can come out of a sequel series, to be honest with you.
No way. They missed their opportunity if there was ever going to be one, and it's but
I think it's better for not having any sequels at this point.
It's much like Graham said. It's like Spaceballs for Star Wars. It should, you know, we really don't need a Spaceballs 2,
Oh,
Spaceballs 1 is fine. Galaxy Quest 1 is fine. We don't need sequels.
Considering what people are saying about History of the World Part 2, definitely not a Spaceballs 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad I haven't subjected myself to that shit yet.
Yeah, because I heard.
And we kind of already look. We've gotten a sequel to Spaceballs that everybody gladly forgets. It was the series.
Yeah, the cartoon.
And outside of one episode, it was horrible.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean fucking horrible.
It was bad. And
basically the first episode is what any sequel to Spaceballs should have been, and it kind of telegraphs that it should have came out around the same time as the prequels, basically. Mm-hmm. And what that is basically the story of Little Dark Helmet. And it was only funny because it was just basically a parody of episode 1. Mm-hmm. So in that respect, like, yes, going off of the hype of the prequels, if they had done a Spaceballs 3, The Search for Spaceballs 2, where it's about Little Dark Helmet or something like that, I think it would have been hilarious, especially coming up with all the, younger versions of these characters and stuff. You could have had fun with that, especially considering half the cast is dead. Mm-hmm. Well, not half, but a good portion of it. I mean, at that point, that's the only way I think you could have played it, and it would have been funny. And you still have at least Mel Brooks to come in and play a couple different parts, but like, I just really don't feel like it needs any sequels in the same thing here.
Yeah, this doesn't need it. But I mean, if you really want to watch like the Star Trek people, like I believe it's on this. It's the special features on this with the behind the scenes. They actually have Jonathan Frakes and some of the people.
This is actually considered in part of Star Trek canon now, kind of. Or not so much canon, but when people rank the films, this usually is ranked in them.
Yeah, it does.
And recently, in a recent poll, it ranked above all of the J.J. Abrams Star Trek films, if I remember right.
Oh, I bet.
Imagine
at least, if not the last two, I know that much. But like, yeah.
But it is good, and we really do. We were like, that was another one that was supposedly supposed to be coming to 4K, and then all we got was the same disc I have released in a steelbook. That's all we got. So
gotta love Paramount.
Yeah, you gotta love Paramount.
I was gonna say, is that because isn't it DreamWorks?
It's
DreamWorks Paramount.
DreamWorks Paramount. Okay.
Paramount will do the scan if it ever happens, and I hope they don't do that DNR crap.
Yeah, it's weird with DreamWorks because it's either Universal or Paramount.
Their last few offerings have been better, so I will give credit where credit's due. In fact, Warner Brothers has had more trouble lately.
Yeah, they've dropped the ball a little bit. Yeah,
a little bit. So we'll see how they play things going forward. But Paramount, I've been a little bit surprised at the last few scans that we've gotten, especially Longest Yard. Going back to my first pick tonight, yeah. I was impressed. They was even some stuff I'm surprised they didn't fix in it. Just little bits and pieces, like that were inherent to the negative, evidently. But it's like, oh, they could have fixed that, but they didn't. And I'm kind of glad they didn't, because that just tells me they didn't overly process this at all. And it's got a nice grain structure, very nice grain structure. Mm-hmm. It does exactly what I talk about when I talk about good grain structures. If you have like a shot where there's a big solid color, especially when you get later on in the movie where you have a lot of the under shots where the guys are huddled, you got a lot of blue from the sky, it should look like there's dots all over in the sky. You get that here. That's what you should see.
Nice. It's a good scan.
It's a very good scan. It looks great. I was impressed by it. And actually, I was actually kind of impressed by the mono soundtrack. I'm normally not a big fan of mono soundtracks, full disclosure. Mm-hmm. But considering it was one of the first times I really didn't go, oh, and we didn't get the stupid faux 5.1 shit we'd been getting out of Kino, so at least they didn't do that. Yeah. But no, it's got a bit of a punch to it for a regular mono soundtrack, so they made sure at least, so like in that respect, as long as you give me that, that's all I care about. And it's, as far as the Superman films, like, yeah, you got the scans of those are pretty decent. My only complaints is they're not in Dolby Vision either.
Mm. Yeah.
So hopefully when they get to Galaxy Quest, Paramount will do a good job with it. I mean, there's a lot of CGI in it too.
I was going to say, I'd be interested to see how they do that with all the CGI in it, with the rock monsters and those.
Whatever they did with the Frighteners, people asked them.
Yes,
because they did a great job with that. I don't know what the hell they did or how they managed to make it look that good, but it looks great. I was worried about that one too.
I wish I would have got that, but I didn't get it. But yes, that'd be cool to see. So that was my final pick of the night, and we got a couple more super chats here. We'll read the two super chats, and then we'll close it out if that's cool with you guys.
Perfect.
All right.
For me.
All right.
It's almost midnight where I'm
My
at.
computer's
it's
dead,
past.
so
It's 1:00 where I'm at. It's 1:00 where I'm at. Bronson, I truly appreciate all these super chats you keep giving me, and I'm more than glad to answer these questions for you.
Hopefully, we'll get to see Trick or Treat this fall.
Yes, I'm looking forward to it for this October. It says my favorite quote from Trick or Treat is "Let the big fish hook themselves. You're the bait. The bait is you." That is a good quote. I like that as well. And then this one for another $5. It says, "I have one more question for you. What is your favorite Johnny Depp Tim Burton movie?" I'm asking about the movies they collaborated on together. I'm gonna have to go Sleepy Hollow.
Edward Scissorhands.
I like Sleepy Hollow. I think that's my favorite.
I haven't seen a lot of Tim Burton movies, to be fair, so I couldn't tell you my favorite. I need to get into it, especially the ones where he actually collaborates with Depp. So, like, I've seen some of them, but like I don't remember. I got to rewatch them.
All right. Well, Edward Scissorhands is a good one. I do like Edward Scissorhands, but I think Sleepy Hollow is my personal favorite of the two. I just do. But with that being said, Runner, get on watching you some Tim Burton films and watch Galaxy Quest. You're going to love it.
Yeah.
Watch The Longest Yard, man.
Yes, and watch The Longest Yard. That is an amazing
The Longest
movie.
Yard, that I want to see more than any of those other things. So I feel like The Longest Yard I'll like.
All right. Well, thank you once again. Film. Yes, it's an amazing film. Amazing film. It's one of my favorites. Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Runner. Truly, Bronson. Mean machine. I should get some clip like that. I should have had a Superman clip ready to go play tonight or something. Thank you, Bronson, once again, truly, for all your super chats. Thank you, everybody in the chat hanging with us. Everybody watching. Tom, Runner, I will see all of you guys. I might have a clip. Do you got one?
Hang on here. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you like that.
No, go ahead. I was just going to play the red. I called him Red. I was going to play the RoboCop, clip as usual. But
this is horrible quality, but hopefully it won't get you too nabbed by the YouTube gods.
The time to get him, Samson. 4-3 mile. 4-3 mile. Ready? Break. Hey! The receiver! Stand!
That's funny.
Hey, I think I broke his fucking neck.
I think he broke his fucking neck.
I told you. Broke his fucking neck.
I told you.
I think he broke his
fucking neck.
I love that movie. That is such a good
now
movie.
I really want to watch it.
I told you. I think I broke his fucking neck.
Told you. That's such a damn good movie. And with all that being said, thank you all once again. You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here.
How you doing? Bitches leave.